Gentlemen, ladies, we're live.
We are officially live, episode number 118 with Michaela Cedillo right behind me here. Mickey, appreciate you
she made an appearance.
First time on the podcast. No, I think this is the first time we're doing John Stossel and Danielle DiMartino Booth. Now, have you guys met each other before? Or this is the first time?
This is the first.
Really?
Like 3 minutes ago.
Well,
It's been great so far.
He was telling a fantastic story about a friend of his back in the days on the trading floor that was famous for reading novels, great novels, right?
The American Stock Exchange?
Yes. Yeah, the American Stock Exchange.
Anyway,
Anyways.
great asset classes is what he was talking about.
No. He said it was not record-breaking. Remember,
I said great, not the greatest.
Look, Patrick, I was 25 years old. I was staring down at the 2-story tall Solomon Brothers famous trading floor where Liar's Poker was born, basically Michael Lewis's saga. And I count like 7 women, and I stopped at like 100 men. And I'm like, okay, if a woman can make it here, then a woman can make it anywhere. That was the moment I decided I want to go to Wall Street.
But is it true, like what you hear about, what you read about on how it is with the ratios as well as the treatment? Or you just have to be tough to make it through?
It was back in the day. I mean, hearing that Wall Street's gone woke is like, excuse me? Because it's an oxymoron. It's not how it works there.
Is it still not like that, or has it changed slightly?
You know what? I haven't been on a trading floor. That's not true. I haven't been on a trading floor recently, but there's not the same kind of grunting going on.
Well,
nobody would grab your ass today on the trading floor.
No, but when I'm on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, sometimes I do see people behind me taking interesting photographs from interesting angles. So
yeah, I'm sorry about that. I just thought that you were.
I mean, Adam, what were you doing on the floor?
Photograph.
Was a cat company come in public? Okay, I'm not going to start that.
You want to go there, Danielle?
Not,
you want to start?
Not yet.
Let me get my coffee.
John, just out of curiosity, are you part of the dog team or cats? Which one are you more part of? Or neither?
Cats.
Cat, really?
Guy, it's my freaking guy over here.
So you got a cat?
Tell us why, John.
No, I have an allergic kid. I want to have a cat. I dream of having a cat.
Got it. Have you ever had
I have
one?
a dog. Yeah, I had cats until I gave life to a kid who was allergic.
Man, we've got some simpaticos in the house this morning. This is going to get interesting.
By the way, you too, though. You're also allergic to cats,
I'm
right?
allergic to cats.
Yeah, and you are not allergic to cats.
Not in any way,
and
shape, or form.
And I love any kind of dogs, animals, any of that. I mean, my dad on the other side, my dad can't stand animals, period. I got to tell you a story about Iran with my dad. Mm-hmm. In Iran, we're living on this 4th story, and this cat used to come, okay? And he hated cats, especially because his mom, my grandma, had 12 cats, 2 dogs, 2 parrots, 2 snakes, and a bunch of
and a partridge
birds.
and a pear tree.
No joke. My grandma loved animals, and my dad couldn't stand them. So this cat would come, and finally he got furious. He said, why are you coming over here making a mess, right? So one day he says, you know what we're going to do? We're going to feed this cat. So me, my mom, and my sister were like, wow, that's changed. He took this mortadella meat, and he went out there, and he put hot sauce all over the mortadella, okay? And
is this a Drake story?
This is a true story. It's a Drake story. John doesn't know the Drake story, but he puts this hot sauce all over the mortadella. And we stand outside. We're like, wow, that's actually giving him. He says, no, I put hot sauce on that thing. They'll never come back. The cats eat the mortadella. They choked all the way down from the fort. We never saw cats ever again. That's my dad's story. Dad's listening to this, cracking up because he remembers when he did this.
Clearly, Drake took a lesson from your dad.
We got a lot of
stories.
stories.
Get your kids to stop biting their nails as well.
Can we just address
smack tobacco?
Oh, yeah.
The
The logo, I like it. They finally put it up. It's sick. Robert, the team, John, everybody, phenomenal job with that logo. We love it.
In the vault.
Yes, in the vault, in the bank vault. John, just so you know, this is a bank vault that we turn into a podcast set.
Cool.
Except behind all this, there's about $17 million, okay? And half of them are empty. By the end, you're going to be able to open it up. Whichever one has money in it, it's yours when you leave. Okay.
You get one choice.
This is like a game show.
It is a game show.
My
Welcome
gosh.
to the game show with Patrick and Adam. Anyways, topics. Dubai Emirates suspends flights due to 5G concerns, and it's all over the place. Is it real? Is it just something they're talking about? Elon Musk laments the declining birth rate. If there aren't enough people for Earth, then there definitely won't be enough for Mars. Big concern for people who want to move to Mars one day. Mr. Beast reportedly made $54 million in 2021, most ever on YouTube. You're a YouTuber. There's YouTubers here. That's $54 million. That's a lot of money. Maybe we can talk about Mr. Beast. Biden's press conference, who they claim it was the greatest press conference of all time. I mean, historic, the way he handled himself. But this article is a spelling error. It says it was an utter disaster. So I think that title maybe needs a little bit.
Typo.
Yeah, it's a typo. California wants to double its taxes. And I want to know what Mr. Stossel has to say about that. And then we got a bunch of other things that's going on. One story specifically, Adam's favorite story that we have here, is most of us prioritize our pets' physical and mental health over our own. A study shows that 7 out of 10 pet owners have more concern about getting their pets acupuncture over them. It's a very interesting study. We'll get into that on how that works out. And then Stossel, John, you've said some stuff about parents should care about CRT, Andrew Yang's new Forward Party, and a few other things here about the FDA. Maybe we'll get into that as well. But how about we start off with California wants to double its taxes? You okay with that? Let's start with California wants to double its taxes. And here we have 2 that live in Florida. You right now live in New York.
So I double my taxes from you.
How awesome is that, though? But you like to play volleyball in Delray, which is
I'd move here if my wife didn't hate Florida.
That's right.
We discussed this last time.
We
You
did.
asked him
We
if he would
definitely had this
actually move here.
conversation. Okay. So let's see what's going on with California. All right, here we go. This is an article from National Review. You can also find this article, I believe, on Washington Examiner and taxfoundation.org. But this one is National Review. Folks, if you're living in California or thinking about moving to California, I don't know a lot of people that are thinking about moving to California, but you may want to listen to this. California wants to double its taxes. Jared Walzak of the Tax Foundation wrote a blog post yesterday with news that doesn't seem possible. California, an already high tax rate, wants to double its tax revenue. No matter how he broke it down, the proposed constitutional amendment, the numbers are astounding. It would increase the top marginal tax rate to 18.5%. That's 7.05% higher than Hawaii, the next highest state, that 12.75% higher than a national median. It would increase taxes by an average of $12,250 per household. All told, the new tax package is intended to raise an additional $163 billion a year, which is more than California raised in total tax revenue any year prior to the pandemic. It's not just income taxes, though. The state wants to implement a payroll tax as well, with the top tax rate applying to taxpayers making only $49,990 in annual income. Currently, only Massachusetts and Nevada have a payroll tax that do more than any fund unemployment insurance. He continues, the most insane part about the proposal, however, is the 2.3% gross receipt tax. Only 7 states levy gross receipt taxes, which are especially harmful to economic growth because they are based on business revenue, not profits. Even if businesses lose money, they still pay the gross receipt taxes because they still made revenue, which is insane if you ask me. If this proposal adopted, California would essentially have 18 tax brackets, and individuals making less than $50,000 per year would wind up paying double-digit marginal tax rates. Thoughts, Mr. Stossel?
I think it's great because we got 50 states. It was a wonderful design so we could experiment, and we need models of failure. So
You need models of failure. Okay, I like
So
that.
you're saying this is a model of failure or potential failure?
Well, I hope it will be, but it is amazing how Californians can say, I believe government will solve all the problems and we'll get the homeless off the street and we'll make everything nice. And if I'm paying 18%, that's okay. I made a lot of money in Silicon Valley. I can afford it, and it's a public service.
Now, here's a question, Danielle. I want to ask both of you guys. Curious to know what you say. I think the question is the following. Newsom, when he won the recall, he was going against Larry Elder. And if we remember that, it was convincing victory, 64. It came out at 67. By the time they got everything, it was around 63%, 62%. But it was not even close, right? So if 60% plus support Newsom, how likely is it that something like this could pass in California?
Wait. Time out. There was a 4th stimulus check mailed to Californians right before the recall vote.
Okay.
So they're literally getting $1,500 of cash in their bank accounts right before they go to the polls. How convenient is that? And B, to John's point about a failed experiment, it failed last year. Anybody guess when California was entered into the Union? Year? 1850. Since 1850, the population of California net has grown every single year until 2021. And 2021 was the first time that they had a net decline in their population. So if they want to continue on this merry path, then they can fail even bigger. Yay! And lose even more companies.
But here's a question, Danielle, for you. If 60% supported Newsom, what's the likelihood that this insane tax proposal will pass?
I mean, if it's only the crazy voters coming out and the other people who are like, screw that, or like leaving, and they were on the fence before, they were like, if anything else crazy. And I've actually spoken to people out there who have great companies, they make good amounts of money, and they were like, well, we thought the taxes were going to go up. We've already bought places elsewhere in the country, and then all the craziness stopped. But they're like, if the taxes go up, I'm out of here. I've already got my plan B. Actually, I already own the property outside of the state of California. So a small exodus is going to become a mass exodus.
And do we really know that they supported Newsom? Because the press portrayed Larry Elder as a crazy man, and Larry talks so fast and puts out so many ideas in one quick sentence. He turned off a lot of people. I love him, and he's right on all the issues.
Really? So you were a fan of Larry Elder?
Totally.
Wow.
Except for his presentation. And I think he scared people.
They
Fast
portrayed
talking
him to be the
salesman
right of
type of
Trump.
thing. Is that okay?
But
Got it.
California's like New York as a state, right?
Yeah.
If you're conservative, you're ambivalent on voting day. You're like, my vote's not going to count. So you don't even bother. You're like, if I registered to vote against Hillary when I lived in New York. You know what I got? Jury duty. I mean, that was it. My vote didn't count. It was just nonsensical. My friends were like, "Why are you doing this? Why are you giving your Texas driver's license?" I've been here for 7 years. Fine, and she's not even from New York. I'm going to go out and vote against her to do my duty, my civic duty, and all I got was jury duty. But there's a level of ambivalence whether you're living in New York or Illinois or California, and you're like, my vote. If I'm a conservative, my vote doesn't count, so why bother?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but here's the part though. Number one, like. You know the whole theory about you put a frog in the water, you boil it 1 degree slowly, and then eventually at 212 he doesn't know it's getting hotter, so he dies. Like, you've heard this story. I'm not the first person telling you this story, right?
All the time, and
Yeah.
it's not true.
Yeah, and it's not true.
No, the frog jumps out as it slowly warms.
You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do this on the podcast as an experiment. Next time you're
Good
here.
idea.
Next time, I'm being serious. David, Tyler, make a note. Next time Stossel is out here, we're gonna bring a frog, we're going to put it in the water, and we're going to boil it at 212.
Frog in a hot plate.
And we're doing podcast, so you see the frog jump out on John. It would be hilarious. So that's the next experiment. Make a note of it. But anyways, going back to this, at what point are people going to say, there is no freaking way this makes any sense? Or is it already happening?
Elon Musk originally moved personally to Texas, and now he's relocated the headquarters.
Yeah, but remember, top marginal tax rate. So what is top marginal tax rate? Because a person making $42,000, they're like, dude, please raise the top marginal tax rate. I don't mind if you raise the top marginal tax rate. So there's more people making less than 49 than those that are making top marginal tax rate. So a lot of the people at the bottom, they're like, Silicon Valley ain't going nowhere. They're going to stay here forever, right? Like this whole thing about what happened in Detroit, that'll never happen to Silicon Valley. New York is the financial capital, Hollywood is Hollywood, even though Atlanta and Austin's kind of competing. Silicon Valley is Silicon Valley. Miami's becoming the crypto capital. There's no way these billionaires will leave. Is that
JP
true?
Morgan Chase has more employees in the state of Texas than JP Morgan Chase has in New York.
Pat, you used the analogy one time, and I
Yeah.
think you were getting to it with the frog, is
You got upset though.
how much are you willing to get pushed? Meaning, like, if I do this to you,
Yeah.
all right, it's a little annoying. If I do that a little bit more, and if I keep pushing,
Yeah.
and pushing, at what point you can be like, dude, if you push me again, I'm going to knock you out. And that's essentially what's happening here. It's like, all right, we'll raise it a percentage. No one's going to
Yeah,
notice.
but you know what it is? Here's the perspective here. This is what I'm trying to ask the brains to my left, because I'm a guy with a 1.8 GPA from high school. These guys got degrees on top of degrees, and they're educated in the world. Journalists, legendary journalists, and Federal Reserve finance. Here's the question. I'm doing it to you, right? You're getting irritated. But if those that are making 40 grand a year are watching me do this to the billionaire, guess what they're saying? Do it again.
Do it again.
Do it again.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Fight,
awesome.
fight,
Do it
fight,
again. So
fight.
it's,
Yeah.
no, they're excited that I'm pushing you.
Of course.
They're celebrating it. And Newsom is like, oh, you like it? Oh, you like it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, awesome. Let me do some more. I think that's the dynamic.
Right.
And by the way, you know who ends up paying the biggest price for this? Not
poor
you.
people.
Because who wants you? Who wants you? 49 other
Yeah,
states
will
want
recruit
Elon
you,
Musk.
of course. Yes.
49 other states want you. This
Median
guy.
Median
is looking
income
at
in
them.
California, 32,000.
But so
in
here's-
2019.
There
here's
you
the
go. That's
question.
what I'm saying. So
I love
that's-
your analogy, Pat, but why should the person making 40 grand who's watching it to get pushed, watching the billionaires get pushed, watching the millionaires get pushed, why should they care?
Why should they, John?
Because life won't be as good if you push the producers out. But why do you think that Silicon Valley won't go down like Detroit if the economics don't make sense and people are moving to Austin and Florida, nicer places? I mean, California has mountains and an ocean and great weather, a lot going for it, and bizarrely a surplus because the stock market went up so much and these zillionaires are paying more in taxes.
Yep.
But it could bust.
At what point?
I don't know.
I don't
At
know.
what point? Is
Last
the-
time I checked, the Nasdaq's in correction.
No, I get that, but I'm trying. Like, if you have you studied the history of Detroit on what caused it to break down when a mayor, started playing games with Dearborn and they started raising local taxes and regulation, and the union got involved and started
And the
making
corrupt
life
public
hell.
unions.
So eventually they're like, we're out of here, and the next thing you know, the population went from 1.5 million to 800,000, and all those jobs left to different places. Do you really think if that happens to Silicon Valley, it could happen? And number
So,
two is what causes that?
I'm going to push one of John's buttons
yeah,
here.
here we go.
In Texas, which is like California Central because the influx is insane and it nonstop. A lot of parents have actually started to leave, talking about strong unions, because the LA teachers union mandated that when they shut the schools down, that they also had to have the private schools close as well. And the private schools are like, wait a minute, we've got the protocol, we can stay open. And eventually the parents just threw in the towel and they're like, we could afford to have stayed in California. They weren't bending on critical race theory. So A, taxes, B, I want my children to have an education that I want for them to have, not that's mandated and dictated. So I'm getting the hell out of here. So California is hurting itself in more ways than just economically incentivizing people to leave, is all I'm saying. Because when your union is that strong, like it was in Detroit, and a public union gets the power to close private schools, I mean, come on. That's not, there's nothing American about that.
People put up with a lot. Most people don't really pay attention to the stuff we talk about. They think about sex and music and movies and sports and raising their families. There's the expression that 90% of the people, 1% of the people make things happen and 10% watch, and the other 90% wake up and say, what happened? And people don't notice that their taxes go up a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. They just take it.
Yeah, but I mean, Patrick, if you're reading correctly, they're talking about doubling.
Yeah, but John, if you double, so let's do the math. Let's just say I'm paying $5,000 in taxes and I'm making $50 a year. That goes to $10,000 in taxes. My car payment is $320. I'm gonna feel that. Like I remember when I'm making 40 grand a year, what $100 was. I looked at $100 raise in a month. I'm like, dude, my phone bill's covered Nextel. That's fantastic. So I felt $100 at that level.
But you're contradicting yourself.
I know I am. I'm trying to challenge to see at what point do people leave. That's what I'm trying to find out. At what point does Silicon Valley just become a city, a valley, and all these guys are gone? What will cause them to leave?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's the same thing that happens in a relationship. It's that we've all, I'm sure we've been in like relationships that haven't worked out, and you get in a fight and it's like, all right, cool, whatever, it's a fight. And then you get in another fight, all right, whatever. And you get in a fight and you're arguing and it's fighting. And then at what point you're thinking, I don't know if I want to be with this person. I don't know. It just kind of keeps happening. And finally, boom, something happens. And you're like, all right, that's it. I'm getting the, so it's not a one and done thing. We got in a fight, we're done. It's the cumulative effect.
You meet someone else.
But to
often
your-
why
okay,
you
You
leave.
see a nicer, sexier state out
But
there.
to
Something
your-
like Florida comes and winks at you.
To your point,
Bingo,
Patrick,
bango.
though, I mean, at some point, you're going to get so frustrated that you're waiting forever to get into a restaurant because the support staff is simply not going to be there anymore. Because you've expanded the social safety net to such an extent, right? The only fourth stimulus check in America was in California. Otherwise, the rest of the nation just got 3, and that was way too many. But
that was a state.
It was a state.
A state, okay.
It was
gotcha.
a state. But at some point, you're going to get so frustrated if you're a zillionaire that you don't have the service that you want. You can't go to Napa Valley and go to your favorite restaurants and go to your favorite resorts because there aren't enough workers. Because the social safety net's big enough to capture them to where they don't have to work. It's at some point things start to fall apart. That's just like New York right now. I mean, you wait a lot longer at a restaurant for service, and either you want to be there or you don't.
You know what this makes me think about is this makes me think about in the following way: how many people can handle domestic violence? How many marriages do you know where people are like, you know what, shit, this sucks, but I'm not going anywhere? How many people stay in a marriage with domestic violence?
That was kind of my point with the relationships.
Yeah.
You went even further.
That's Adam's point, but you also have women's shelters that are constantly full. So clearly human beings hit their break points or the women's shelters wouldn't be full.
So what I'm saying is I think California is a form of domestic violence to its citizens. I think California is the best example of domestic violence, and unfortunately some are going to take it and tolerate it, and some are going to say, I'm getting the hell out of here. Unfortunately, the logic behind the politician, what's the politician thinking about? What is the policymaker thinking about? What is a policymaker thinking long term? Like, what's this 163 billion going to do? Like, you're going to treat 163
we're going to help
better?
people. We have problems here, and if we have this money, we can get more social workers to help the neglected kids, and they believe it.
Clean up the homelessness, everything that's going on in San Francisco. I mean, we've covered that to a...
I mean, at least de Blasio left before he was able to set up the shooting up heroin tents, the safe spots.
Pat,
I mean, LA's already gone there.
This is a question for you.
Go for it.
And so I think this is ultimately where we're going with this, is that physically, John touched on this with the mountains and the oceans, physically, California is the most beautiful state. But tax-wise and politically, it is potentially the ugliest state.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying there? Would you agree with that?
Sure. So you're
like you moved out of California
for
7
you,
years ago.
But it's for you. It's kind of like you're dating somebody who's drop dead gorgeous,
Right.
who is ridiculously demanding, and nothing ever makes her or him happy.
Yeah.
How long are you going to stay in that
That's
relationship?
my point. Is like
and you
she's
can brag
so
about
hot,
her in front of
she's so
everybody
gorgeous,
else.
but she's horrible to my friends and she's horrible to my family, and I can't like.
And honestly, she's probably also horrible in bed. You know, she's
look,
also,
you know, I don't
I'm
know.
just putting it up because
Not
he
from
brought
what I
up
hear about
sex, so maybe
California.
sex and finances.
Well, that's all that's on
your
Stossel's
next
mind
show.
these days.
Yeah,
Volleyball and sex.
Anyway,
apparently.
so last night we went to dinner with one of his
Sex in the
friends.
vault instead of Sex in the
Sex
City.
in the vault.
Sex in the vault.
Sex in the vault. We went to
I'd throw
dinner
that out there.
yesterday with our friend Keith, and he had some depressing words. He says, guys, we're 40. And Adam is 40, about to be 41 on February 4th, right? Is it February 4th?
Correct.
Or February? Yeah. So he's like, we only have 25 good years left in us. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're at dinner having drinks, you know, old fashioned. He's like, what are you talking about? I feel like I got a lot more
Stossel,
than
what
that.
what are your thoughts about that?
I don't believe it. I'm over 65.
And you're playing volleyball in Delray.
I hope to have good years left.
I love that response from John Stossel. I love
Otherwise,
that.
you might as well just cart the coffins into the vault here. Seriously.
So, okay, so now let's go to a different topic. So, John Stossel, you did a story on CRT. Parents should care about CRT, right? Let's go to page 5 with John Stossel, CRT. Parents should care about CRT. This is a Tribe Life story. Glenn Youngkin recently was elected Virginia's governor, partly because he promised to ban teaching of CRT. CRT stands for critical race theory, which argues that every American institution upholds white supremacy. Journalist Asra Noamani reveals some rather creepy CRT lessons that are taught in schools. Noamani filed Freedom of Information Act request that force schools district to reveal how they pay consultants to spread CRT. We found 300 plus contracts, say Naomi. Every day I'm getting a new contract. Some conservatives want to ban the teaching of CRT. That's not a good idea. Government shouldn't be banning ideas of taking choices away from teachers. Bans shield students from important topics. A better solution is legalizing school choice. Let parents take our tax money to a school we choose. Can you unpack that?
Well, let's start with the end. If there's a market, everything is made better by competition. And you look at New York, where I'm from, and you used to work, they spend more than $20,000 per kid. If you do the math, that's $400,000 per classroom.
Okay.
How many good teachers could you hire for that? You got to be able to hire 4 good teachers. And this was not capital cost. This was just what they put in to teach the kids every year. So where does the money go? Nobody can find out. It goes in. It's not just the union. It's the
administration, all that,
the
all those layers of
bureaucracy and the
bureaucracy.
PTAs get caught. I mean, the people who like going into windowless conference rooms and trying to figure out how to run other people's lives, unless there's competition that forces them to make some cut somewhere and to spend more on the right things that the parents want, it'll never get better. I don't think the critical race theory stuff is a giant threat, but they have books like Woke Baby. I mean, critical theory is a law school theory, but it got down to the teachers, and many of them believe racism is everywhere, which I think is nonsense. There's more intermarriage than ever before, and isn't that a measure of racists getting along if you are eager to marry someone of a different race? But some kids are being taught that if you're white, you're a horrible person, and you stole from non-white people. You did it. Well, your parents did it and passed it down to you. But you have this huge advantage, and that's evil.
Do you believe in the power of affirmations?
I'm not sure what it means.
Power of affirmations, like saying, hey, you know, I'm going to have a good day today. You know, be careful what you joke about or be sarcastic about, because the spirit stops having faith in the words that comes out of your mouth. I'm meant to do something special in my life. You know, do you believe in affirmations? Do you believe in affirmations, Danielle?
I do.
Do you believe in power of positive thinking?
Sure.
Can we say we all agree that Norman
I say
Vincent
an affirmation
Peale,
every morning.
Okay, I know you do, right? Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking, New York, preach, you know, pastor, all this stuff, right? So I'm giving a talk, and I'm speaking in front of a group of kids and parents, probably 1,000 people in the room, and I'm up there talking about how great this country is, right? America's the greatest country in the world. Like, you know, American exceptionalism, this is the greatest place. And next thing you know, I see a couple of the teachers go like this. And I'm like, okay, my job is to read body language. This is what you do when you're speaking from stage. I'm like, okay, curious. I want to really talk to these guys afterwards. So I don't even need to go to them. They come up to me. Listen, first of all, thank you for coming up, but can I give you some feedback? Yes. You have to be very careful telling young kids a lie like America's the greatest country in the world. Do you realize America's one of the most racist countries in the world? And she went off, right? All these things about how horrible America is. I said, let me ask you a question. She said, yes. I said, do you believe in affirmations? She said, what's affirmation? And I told her, I said, do you think it serves kids to think positive thoughts about themselves, about their families, about their heritage, about their country? I think that's a form of manipulation. Oh, really? That's a form of manipulation. Interesting. So I shouldn't tell my kids, son, you can do almost everything you put your mind to, except some things that have physical abilities. If you can't jump 46 inches, you're probably not going to be LeBron James. Outside of some of physical stuff, you can probably do anything you want to do, right? Huh? Is that a bad thing to tell a kid? No, but that's not the point. We have to tell people the truth about the fact that racism exists. I'm like, ma'am, I just came and spoke at a white school, and I'm from Iran. Like, do you realize how you invited me? And I spoke, and I said how great your country is. This is an example of how great America is. Well, no, you haven't seen all the other stuff. I haven't seen all the other stuff. I was in the military, went to Kentucky. Have you lived in South Carolina or Kentucky? I lived in South Carolina, and I went to a Waffle House, which I don't miss going to Waffle House, right? So I go to Waffle House. This guy's looking at me saying, where are you from? I said, what do you mean? He said, can I just be honest? I said, yeah, sure. He said, I've never seen a nose like that in my life before. I said, this is a legendary Armenian nose. You cannot make these types of things. You have to have genetics.
The guy actually said that to your face.
I said, you realize your pretty boy nose that you got, it cost me $9,000 to make it look like yours. I said, you need billions to make yours look like mine. Okay, all the money in the world's not going to. So he starts laughing. We start laughing. I said, I'm from Iran. He said, you're from Iran? Iran? I said, yeah, I'm from Iran. He said, what are you doing here? You know, and we're at this Waffle House. I said, can I whisper it to you so it's not, I don't want people to know about this. Because I'm in the uniform. I said, listen, just between us, I'm a spy here. I'm trying to spy and study all your military tactics. I'm going to take it back to Iran. It's why I'm here. Seriously? No, man, I'm kidding with you.
He's running for his gun right now.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So to me, the biggest thing that CRT doesn't get is affirmations work And if you want to put negative affirmations, they also work. If you tell hundreds of thousands of kids they're racist, by the time they're 18, they're convinced they're racist. And it continues for decades and decades and decades. And I think that's a problem. I think it's a different approach we can take. I may be wrong.
There's people fighting their way into this country. Give me a break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people want to come here. But when the kids are older, it's right to teach them about some of the horrible things that America has done. And it was just not taught to any kid when I was in 8th grade.
I mean, I think we all went to school and we learned about the Civil War and slavery. I don't think it wasn't called critical race theory, but we were all very well aware.
That was like part of the.
That was part of exactly.
When the white people civilized America and rescued people from the savages, that stuff was in my courses.
Mm-hmm. What,
White
is that
people
wrong?
I'm vastly older than you guys.
Is that wrong? Is that incorrect?
No. America did some racist, nasty things.
No, but your statement is that white people civilized. He's asking, is that wrong? Because Lincoln's not black, right? Is he white or black?
Last I checked, he's still white.
I thought he was a white guy.
He's not with us anymore, by the way, Adam.
The Enlightenment
So I'm tweeting
civilized.
the other day.
Western values civilized the world.
Correct.
Yes. And
But-
you're not allowed to say that anymore.
But back to-
it's just true.
I don't know, maybe Glendale High School focused on it, but I remember I grew up. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. When I was in high school, I didn't like white people when I was in high school. Because what was sold to me was white people take advantage of everybody else. That's what was sold to me. When my teacher was white, when she's teaching history. What they did to blacks, what they did to race. Till today, you're not going to find an office of mine or anything of mine without an MLK picture on the wall. Till today. MLK is a hero and obviously he just had his celebration. So I don't know if the histories, unless if it's inaccurate and Lincoln didn't play a big role, then we have to talk about it.
I mean, I grew up learning that, the horrors that we inflicted upon Native Americans when we landed here. I mean, they've got like 1.2% of their land left. But I mean, these are things that I learned growing up in school.
But I think we're missing a major point here. When you say we did this, we're all immigrants. My family came over from Russia in the early 1900s, okay? His family came from Iran. I don't know, you're Jewish. Your family probably landed on Ellis Island. Your family's Italian.
Ellis Island, 1920s.
I don't know. I mean, unless you're like original OG Jamestown waspy English from 1600s, we all immigrated from countries where we had to get the hell out of because we were getting persecuted, whether that was religiously or economically, and we had to make a move. So when we white people, how many people are just straight white people that just landed on Plymouth Rock? Like the old Malcolm X. I didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on me. So the old white people thing, I just think is just a blanket statement that just actually doesn't hold water to most people. Am I wrong on that, John Stossel?
No. And also, slavery was ended by white people. Most college students now think America created slavery, started it.
Now you're contradicting yourself, John.
I like to do that, just like you do.
So why you tease him?
Keeping PBD on his toes.
Keep going.
It was the British more than we, but even people from Mexico who ended slavery. But it began in the Middle East. It was perpetuated all over Africa. Mm-hmm. And somehow white people are the bad guys.
And it continues to this day in various parts
Right.
of the world.
6 countries.
Let's not forget that we killed Gaddafi, and now there's a giant slave trade in Libya. Let's not forget about that.
What's your point with that?
It's his point. Slave trading is still on today. There are thousands of slaves being traded in Libya after we bombed and assassinated Gaddafi.
So we shouldn't have killed Gaddafi?
Yeah, are you advocating for us not to have killed Gaddafi?
It's the voice of God called David. But go ahead.
You may have a good point.
I don't think we should have killed Gaddafi.
Tell us why.
Because we brought the country into chaos. Gaddafi had backed off. He understood that we had his number. He had backed off. He wasn't the terrorist he was 10 years ago before we assassinated. And look what happened after he was gone. The country has fallen into complete chaos.
And it's often justified by this idea of American exceptionalism. We go into all these other countries and tell them how to run things, and we make it worse.
I mean, an even worse example than Gaddafi is what's happened in Iraq. We prop up these Gaddafis, these Saddam Husseins as these boogeymen. These are horrible people. We got to get them out. And next thing you know, that it creates this vacuum. Boom, ISIS. Boom, slave trades in Libya. So it's like, what are we trading? One, what is he? Just a complete leader, totalitarian is the word I'm looking for basically a complete psychopath mindset that ISIL brings.
These are three different issues, by the way, that we just combined together, and Tyler completely threw a little bomb in there and confused everybody. Yeah, no, but to the point of what he's talking about with Libya, should we be involved? Should we not be involved? I would say, that whole stat we did with how many military bases we have versus China around the world. You know how many military bases U.S. has around the world versus how many China has? Do you know?
Take a guess.
I don't want you to say because you know. Do you know what the number is?
90.
How many U.S. has worldwide versus China? How many do you think China has?
I don't think 5.
How many do you think U.S. has?
Thousands.
Okay. U.S. has 800 military bases worldwide. China has 1. And it's by the, what do you call it?
Djibouti, baby.
The Djibouti by...
Suez Canal?
What do they call that? Suez Canal, but there's how oil, that whole section is what they have. But they have 1 military base. U.S. has 800.
We have 30,000
the Horn of the
soldiers.
tip of Africa, the northern part of.
Yeah. That's right.
exactly.
That's right.
Djibouti,
Yes.
Yeah, not the Suez Canal.
30,000 soldiers in Korea. 30,000 soldiers
Camp
in
Casey is one of them. Yeah.
Japan. 40,000 in Germany. Didn't we win those wars? Why are we still there? South Korea is rich. It could defend itself from North Korea.
We might find out this weekend why there are some in Europe.
With NATO.
Why?
And
How
Russia,
does
you're
that
talking about.
play out?
We've mobilized a ton of the Navy there, but I don't think anything happens.
And it's
There's
terrible.
massive amounts of the Navy headed straight there.
And we're going to go to war over Ukraine?
Doesn't sound like it. Either somebody wasn't briefed or somebody gaffed at the podium a few nights
John,
ago.
what should we be involved in? What should we not be involved in? Should we be involved in anything?
Direct threats to the United States.
How about direct threats to allies of the United States?
Well, we have to because we signed the NATO treaty.
So then,
but these treaties, which sound wonderful, we're going to have a safer world, it means we're obligated to go to war for people we may no longer like.
How do you mean by no longer like?
Maybe you sign the treaty when one government's in power and it totally changes. Yeah. But once government does something, it never undoes it. Back
to your original question about direct threats, or your point about direct threats of the United States. Wholeheartedly agree. Look what happened in 9/11. That was a direct threat. Next thing you know, we'd end up in Afghanistan for 20 years. Longest war we've ever been in, and that's been a disaster when they pulled out a little premature. But at what point is that direct threat just continue and continue and continue and continue to the point where it just makes no sense to be there?
Well, part of the threat continues because they hate having our troops walking down their street. How would you feel if some Chinese soldier in uniform is patrolling your neighborhood?
Would hate it, of course.
Right.
But wait a minute.
Want to kill him.
But wait a minute. That's not always true. It's not always true. I'm sorry, I disagree. That's not always true because there are many countries who feel safer with seeing our troops walking around than their own troops walking around because there is that abuse.
Tyler, had we maintained a presence in Libya, do you think that this would have degraded to the extent that it has?
No, I don't think it would have. But to the point, I think when you're the largest superpower in the world, and the number one superpower in the world, it is your job to play police officer, to keep people in check and to keep a sort of world order. I mean, and let's not forget, that's what these military people sign up for, is to maintain peace and essentially save the world. I mean, that's what they sign up for.
I agree with you, and I agree with John. This is the part. We're going to call today's show the contradiction show.
A sea of contradictions. It's all contradictions.
People are like...
Well, and at what point does a non-direct threat become a direct threat? So Russia moves into Ukraine. All right, it's not a direct threat. Well, what if they keep moving and advancing and eventually move into all of Europe? Then does it become a direct threat? At what point do these threats switch to where it's on our radar?
Yeah, I mean, back in 1938, they were like, 1939, they're like, okay, all right, Germany, you can have Czechoslovakia, but you better stop there. No Poland for you. And Britain had to go it alone, but they were like, okay, we'll let you absorb one little country. But when you give a little inch, you never know how these things are going to progress. And there's something to be said for China watching very closely. I sent you an article last night. There's something to be said for watching very closely to whether or not, if Putin does something, is this going to be seen as an opportunity for Xi Jinping to do something with Taiwan? And to have a coordinated effort. Look, Putin and Xi Jinping don't like each other. They're not like hanging out on the weekends. At all.
You don't think that they're
not buddies? No, they're two egomaniacs. But that being said, if you're talking about kicking a country when it's down or taking advantage of a point of vulnerability, then why wouldn't you do it at the same time?
Would you say that Putin and Xi, or even China and Russia, are more closer to allies or foes?
I would say that their interests are aligned.
Right.
You're saying who? China and Russia?
China and Russia.
They're
are
neighbors.
close.
They have to get along.
Yeah.
Economically, their
get along.
interests
Kind of like
are aligned.
U.S. and Mexico,
Yeah,
U.S.
but
and Canada.
Let me ask you, who do you think they hate more? Do you think Russia hates America more or China more?
Oh, America by far.
So China, you think China hates Russia more?
America.
Okay, so that's
Not
they
even
have a
close.
common
Exactly.
enemy, right? That part.
The enemy of my enemy.
And
is
most
my
people
friend, right?
on mainland China believe exactly what they've been told their entire lives, and
Yeah.
that's that Taiwan is legally part of China.
So let's finish this, folks. Let's go through all this stuff. The sea of contradictions that we had. Number one, CRT. John says, let them teach it because it's a form of capitalism. If some schools do too much of it, parents are going to take their kids to a different school. That's CRT. Now, the challenge with that is if my kids are going to public school and I can't afford it, I can't afford to take my kids to another public school because there's a zip code and all these other things you're dealing with. I'm a little screwed there, John, if I can't afford to take my kids to private school.
Well, no, it could be public school choice. Think if you were assigned to your supermarket by your zip code. It would be, the supermarket would have no interest in pleasing its customers.
Look,
But
de
are you okay if
Blasio
all of-
screwed
are
New
you-
York, but there are opportunities, I think, to revamp the public school system.
No, but are you okay if they say every public school in America is going to come and impose a CRT philosophies on the young kids? Then what do? You and I can take our kids to private school, but the average person making 52 is going to say, dude, I can't go to Delaware, it's still CRT. I can't go to New York, it's still CRT. I can't go anywhere.
I don't think you would ever see something like that nationwide. I think that the Virginia gubernatorial election taught us that.
And if the parent was, if the money were attached to the back of the kid, and you had a system where, that school gets the $20,000 if I can lure those parents, this would never happen.
Yeah.
Regarding CRT, I don't think anything should be banned, right? Like nothing should be banned. However, I do think like for instance, I wouldn't want my elementary school kid learning about CRT. I wouldn't probably even want a middle school kid. But at some point, 11th, 12th grade, I think it's open it up. Let's have open conversations. You're about to get ready for the real world. There's going to be a lot tougher things you're going to deal with than a CRT class or a
But
curriculum.
as long as you're teaching both sides of every story.
True.
But if you don't want the government to just ban things, you're big fans of DeSantis, and I am in many ways. But what about his saying, it's kind of like no one may teach critical race theory. No one may say in this school, we demand you wear a mask. That seems totalitarian.
To also not allow kids to wear masks at certain schools.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if that school chooses it. And
Let them do it.
Well, since the
Yeah.
since the
If
Supreme
the
Court ruled,
kids
look
can
how many.
leave.
Since the Supreme Court
I don't know about
ruled,
that.
look how many companies have abandoned their mask mandate.
Yeah. So, by the way, look, while you're saying this, let's transition into what Boris Johnson just said yesterday. If you want to pull up that video, we covered a lot of different topics here. We found
sure
out
do.
Abraham Lincoln is white, which was
Breaking news,
extremely
guys.
important. If you want to make that bigger, this is Boris Johnson.
Play
he just
ended
said
badly.
this 3 days ago. Go ahead.
Mandate the wearing
Rewind
of
a little
face
bit because you
masks
played it when I was
anywhere.
speaking. Go back a little bit. Here we go.
The government will no longer mandate the wearing of face masks anywhere. Mr. Speaker,
Wait. Listen.
Mr. Speaker,
Are they booing him?
Mr. Speaker,
Laughing.
from tomorrow, From tomorrow, we will no longer require face masks in classrooms, and the Department for Education will shortly remove national guidance on their use in communal areas. In the country at large, we will continue to suggest the use of face coverings in enclosed or crowded spaces, particularly when you come into contact with people you don't normally meet, but we will trust the judgment of the British people and no longer criminalise anyone who chooses not to wear one. The government will no longer...
He just saved his hiney.
What do you think about that, John?
I think British people just sound smarter because of their accent. But yeah, trust people. If you compare the states, and my last video is about that, how there's just no pattern. States that don't require masks, like Florida, they get smeared. Oh, more deaths in Florida than any other place. And the slimy media does this by mentioning Florida when you have a bad month and ignoring Florida when the numbers are good. Florida is number 19 in deaths, and Florida has more old people. So Florida's doing pretty well despite having totally different rules. And there's just no pattern.
It's the third largest population in the country.
New York, New Jersey did really badly, and they have tough rules. So can you say, well, locking people up increased the problems from COVID? No, because there were fewer deaths in California, and they had horrible rules. So there's no pattern. And everybody acts like, oh, yes, if we only do this, you will solve it. But we're never going to solve COVID. It lives on in animals. Are we going to require lions and tigers to wear masks? We have to deal with this.
It's a bad look. Lions look good.
They need their mouth.
What would you say, Danielle?
I think that we're learning that common sense, as Prime Minister Johnson said, that common sense should prevail. I mean, if you're like in a really crowded subway car in New York and you don't have a mask on, then you know, in the event that you've got minor lupus, and I get COVID and it takes my ass down. Hi, I was in a crowded subway car with people breathing all over me. If I'm walking down the street or if I'm in a store by myself and it's not crowded and I don't have my mask, fine. Is it going to come up and jump and get me from someplace across the street? No.
Where I live, they're wearing masks outside.
I know. I'm in New York on Tuesday. That's the freakiest thing about New York is that there's such a fear factor. Mm-hmm. I was in Los Angeles recently, and there are people walking on the streets, empty streets of Los Angeles, downtown Los Angeles, in masks, and I'm like, what do you think is going to get you? You're outdoors. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Government shouldn't brainwash people out of having any common sense. And that's what we've seen in America.
And elsewhere. Austria just mandated vaccinations.
Yep.
But fear is such a powerful motivator. And as a consumer reporter, I was eagerly covering every scare that came by. Red dye number 6, asbestos from hair dryers.
Tylenol.
Y2K, it's going to crash all the planes.
Yep.
That's kind of like the new thing, this G5 they're talking about.
5G, yeah.
One after the other. None of it happened. You're going to get brain cancer from your cell phone. The killer bees are coming up from Mexico, and they're going to sting us to death.
But what they said about putting metal in microwaves, that was true.
Well, that's true.
You laughed. I made you laugh. Oh, my God.
That's the joke? That's the one that made you laugh? The metal in microwave jokes? Oh, my God, Stossel. Tough crowd over here.
Don't put metal in the microwave.
So, it was true.
But we fall for it again and again. It's fear porn.
Fear porn. I like that.
That's a huge hashtag on Twitter.
Yeah, fear porn. I like that. So it's no longer, what's that porn
by the way,
website?
people,
Pornhub is going to be Fear Hub, right?
For all my Twitter followers, PBD is getting to be really active on Twitter. So all my Twitter followers, you better be following him.
Wow, thanks. So by the way, this is how I see it. I see it from the element of should some people be micromanaged?
Yes.
Mentally ill, helpless people.
Who else? Who else should be micromanaged? I got 4 kids. Who should be Okay, good.
Toddlers who could fall into a swimming pool and die.
I totally agree. How level of micromanagement should we treat toddlers? At what level? Is that 100?
The highest level possible.
I agree, right?
And boys more than girls.
Boys should be micromanaged more than girls.
Once they're mobile? Oh, my gosh.
Tell me why, by the way. Unpack that. Why boys need to be micromanaged more than girls?
Because boys are stupider and crazier. And
Their frontal lobe does not. No. But you're not.
we
being,
develop later.
You do. Male's frontal lobe develops by the age of 25. They're actually physiologically idiots until 25. Some until 50. Some until forever. Just all depends.
Don't I know it, Danielle? It's tough out here.
Okay. We're gonna get you to procreate one of these days. We are. And when it happens, I want you to go full speed ahead and make up for the lost time.
You should be
Adam.
very happy to know that I'm practicing every weekend, and then when it's ready for game time, I will let you know.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Here's one example that when I finally refused to do the scare stories on 2020, somebody came in with Bic lighters are exploding in people's pockets and setting them on fire, and they've killed 4 people over the past 4 years. And it was true. And 2020 did the story. When I refused, they got Bob Brown to do it. But when I looked at the data, you see that 10 times as many are killed by plastic bags.
Yeah.
We don't do stories on plastic bags because they're too ordinary. And 200 Americans are killed over that time by buckets, 5-gallon buckets, mostly because 2-year-old toddlers climb into them and manage to drown. And most of those are boys.
Where were you going with the micromanaging?
Let me tell you where we're going. At what point should you micromanage less? Like, what age should you micromanage kids less?
I tell every parent, the minute you don't have to have eyes in the back of your head and your kids can swim in the ocean, you're going to cross a Rubicon to a higher level of freedom.
Okay. Will you ever be 100% not needing to watch what your kids are doing at any age?
Hopefully, if you've raised them correctly, then they have independence.
But watch where I'm going with this. Out of your 4 kids, 5 kids, 3 kids, could one need more management than the others?
Yeah, the 3 boys.
Okay, fine. So here's where it goes. Then the question becomes the following. Should the president or the government trust what percentage of people to make the right choice for themselves and others? Meaning, you're not going to commit suicide, you're not going to hurt yourself, that's going to hurt others, or you're not going to hurt other people. What percentage of America should the president and the government trust? And the rest we micromanage. What percentage? Do you understand the question I'm asking and where I'm going with this?
Now you've crossed a constitutional line.
But no, guys, I'm trying to make a point here. So what do you think is a...
But now you've crossed a constitutional line. Now you've gone into a different vector.
So tell me what that means, because my question is fairly simple. What percentage of America should we trust that's going to make the right decision that's not going to hurt them, their family, their peers, and the people around them? And which ones should we micromanage?
Well, I think the word liberty is coming to mind.
Yeah, but
it's in a great big document.
Well, listen, to me, prisons are a form of micromanaging. Jails are a form of micromanaging. Those people need to be micromanaged because you killed somebody, you committed murder, you stole. Again, what percentage should we micromanage, and what percentage should we trust? It's a very simple question.
According to New York's new Attorney General, none.
That's the point. What do you think that number needs to be? John, I'm actually curious what somebody like you would say to that. What do you think that is?
2%.
2%.
But I don't like you saying that the president should micromanage them. The president is
government, local, state. Okay, let's stay there. So let's take the president. Government, state, local, cities, all of that. So you said 2% needs to be micromanaged. Okay. Okay. Do you know what the answer to this question says? The answer to this question will tell the world where you lean politically. The answer to this question will tell you where you lean politically. I'm convinced. Because if somebody says what? Ask this question today, folks. If you're having lunch with your friends, forget about that. Just ask them. I heard on a podcast today that they were saying this. What do you think that percentage is? You will see. If a person says 50% needs to be watched, well, you know where that person leans. They want big government. If a person says 1%, those people trust people. To me, it eventually gets to a point where you ever heard of these kids or these girls or the boys that are raised in a family that's hardcore micromanaging? What's the first thing they do when they go to college?
Like Catholic schoolgirls. They
blow themselves up.
Are you kidding me? Like they run it's like it's
They
insane.
last a whole semester before they're like, I was drunk the whole time.
What the hell just happened?
You mean I actually had to go into the classroom?
I think this is a prime example. Boris Johnson, they've been micromanaging their people, and America right now is trying to micromanage its people. And what Biden is telling, and the administration is telling, in some of these states like California, New York, what they're telling their people is we don't trust 99% of you.
I'm liking the new mayor of New York. I mean, he's only been there for 5 minutes, but I'm liking Eric Adams saying we're not closing the city.
You got mayor,
The
you got
city's
governor.
open.
You got two different issues.
Pat, let me give
Yeah.
you a different perspective.
Yeah.
We're all micromanaged in some capacity, meaning
Sure.
you can't just run red lights. You got to stop at stop signs. You typically have to wear a seatbelt. You kind of got to pay your taxes. You can't murder. We're all like, there's different levels of. In some
That's
states,
called
you can't.
the rule of
No, no,
law.
no.
Okay, but that
That's
is
not-
micromanaging.
No,
it's not just one big
It's
free
not.
for all.
No,
tyranny.
it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. Here's how this works. Hey, son, here's the guidelines in this house. Go. Versus, what'd you do? Where you at? What are you doing? What's
Right.
this? Why'd you do this? No, go over here. That's
So laws
micromanagement.
aren't
No,
micromanagement.
those are guidelines you create,
Yeah.
and then you hope the people live by those
But
guidelines.
laws aren't
So-
guidelines.
so Adam,
laws are
yeah,
laws.
the
Yeah,
three
but
of
if
the-
you constantly keep creating new laws over and over and over again, what you're trying to say is, I don't trust the people. In a family with a lot of laws, things break. Okay?
Right.
1 or 2 or 3, fine. When you over-regulate kids or
Yes.
over-regulate people, you piss them off and they turn against you.
You gave the story of the Catholic schoolgirl. I
Yeah.
did the Soscast yesterday. We had the pretty girl Jen on, and she had older brothers, and her brother. I go, "Oh, you had older brothers. Good luck out there." And she goes, "Yeah, they gave me a list of guys that I could
Right
not
there.
date
That's
in
right.
high school. Here's the
Look.
list of 10 guys you cannot date." She goes, "I dated every single one of them." I go, "What?" She goes, "You don't tell me what to do." I mean, that's a form of micromanagement.
That
Your
is.
older brothers
That is.
telling you who you
Yeah.
can and
All
cannot
right,
date.
so Adam, I think Patrick, John, and I are going to agree on something. As parents, what's the hardest thing to do as a parent? When your kid does something wrong, what do you tell them? If you're a 1%er as opposed to a micromanager, God, I'm sorry you made that choice. That just sucks. Sorry. And you walk away, and the consequences be what they may. And that's how you teach guidelines, right, Patrick? I'm sorry you made that choice. John?
I always said, wife, would you handle this? But you know,
Is
you talk
Danielle
about-
right in the looseness that she governs her household? Or
There's
is there a
no
lesson
looseness if there's a real consequence.
there? No, meaning like, hey, better luck next time. That's the approach. I'm asking you.
But this is a problem now. I mean, we're over micromanaging these kids, and now what do we have? Safe spaces. Nobody can get hurt.
me a
Nobody can run
break.
on their own. I mean, this was
Trophy culture.
the coddling of the American mind. I forget who wrote it, but the author started a movement called Free Range Kids, where he lets his kids at 10, 12, 11, or 11, 10, 12, 13 walk to the subway, walk to their friend's house. He doesn't know where they're at 24/7.
I mean, mine are
It's
getting on
she-
airplanes
it's
by
she,
themselves
actually,
and flying halfway
Lenore
across the country.
Skenazy.
Like Tom Zenner with Dash. Remember the first time we met?
Just came out of nowhere. He's like, "Where were you at?" "I was surfing." "Okay, go." 10-year-old kid.
10 years old.
Yeah.
Just rolling around Southern
in
California.
Manhattan. Yeah. So okay. So I guess
But then you give them independence, and then it doesn't matter what the government tells a kid who becomes independent. When you raise them right, you're like, sucks you made that choice, sorry. And whatever, you turn off their phone, they don't get to go out for a few days. Whatever privilege they lose, they lose. But you're like, sorry you made that choice, and you walk away.
Yeah.
Otherwise, and then your kid can be surfing on Manhattan Beach, and they're going to be okay because you've taught them how to be okay.
Yeah.
As opposed to, constraining them to where they need a damn safety dog and safety space, all that. I'm not going to use an ugly word, but
Can we look at one more contradiction?
Sure.
In that you talk about jailing people and where's the right level, and now you've got places like San Francisco where they don't arrest anybody for stealing up to $900, and people are stealing
Yep.
all the time. And even the mayor now has said, we're going to stop this bullshit. We're going to have more aggressive policing. And I agree they should. On the other hand, America locks up more people than any other country, by far.
We have
Why is
4%
that
of the
right?
population of the world. We have 25% of the inmates.
That's nuts.
But by the way, if you've been to Alcatraz, they got a wall with all the stats of the fact that here's how much money you spend, here's this, here's that, and how America leads in incarceration. And that becomes a training ground to turn a criminal that was a 3 into a 6, because you're going to go there and learn how to commit crime in many different ways, and you get the playbook from the best of the best, right?
it's total criminal. It's like going to school to become a bigger criminal. That's
Miss
what
Spring
prisons
training.
are.
But John, you know what you just did?
No. What
You
did I
just,
just do?
you just even strengthened my argument, and I love you for it. You're so amazing, because my point is to try to micromanage more people is not effective. My kid yesterday screwed up. I got a call from his principal. So I go in, And I say, how you doing? Hey, Dad. I'm like, you know what yeah, I know. I'm like, let's go in the other room. I said, so what happened? Just tell me the truth, buddy, because you know these guys are going to tell me what happened. I know. Here's what I did. You're probably disappointed at me, huh? I know you would be. I'm like, this guy. I'm trying to say, no, I'm not, son. I love you. And I'm like, yeah, it's, you know the decision.
That's
you
not
made
easy
there.
to do.
That's not the right move you just made, buddy. You know that. That's not the right thing. He says, no, I know that, and I'm really disappointed in myself. How you going to fix this, right? And he goes into this whole thing about how you're going to fix this.
What did he do?
Nothing. But the principal called because he talked back, and some of the, he was talking while they're taking the test, and he was talking to them. Anyways, I mean, obviously, to me, that's nothing but from a 1.8 GPA community. But for the 4.2 GPA community, that's a big deal, apparently. And it's fine. We want him to have better grades. And so I talked to him. I'm like, okay, here you go. If you choose every opportunity to discipline your kids, that's going back to everything is a crime. It's too much. I don't think that's a good idea. I think you made a mistake. Let's train you. Let's teach you better habits. Let's give you different opportunities. But I don't think our administration today, and many states in America, I don't think they trust their citizens to make the right choice. I think they want to try to be everyone's mommy and tell them what to do and what not to do. And eventually people are going to burn out. Yeah,
and leave.
Yeah, and by the way, you know what's crazy? A lot of people that are moving to Florida, they're Democrats. And they're staying Democrats. Mm-hmm. But they're Democrats who don't want to be told what to do. They're Democrats who are like, just trust my decision-making process. I've never committed a crime in my life. Why do you treat me like I'm a criminal?
Look at this. I mean,
leave me alone.
Look at this absolute campaign against Joe Manchin. I mean, how many ad dollars have been spent by the Democratic Party attacking this Democrat?
700. Yeah, I saw that.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, but he's speaking for the silent majority in the middle of the country.
Can I make one point
Please,
about Boris
go for
Johnson?
it. Yeah.
I know we're going to move on. So
Yeah.
some of the three most powerful words in business or in anything in marketing are things have changed. Someone taught me that when I was doing cold calling for my financial firm and I couldn't get through to people, and they said, use these words, things have changed. And it's like, oh, what's changed? Well, the comp structure, the marketing, the capabilities. But things have changed with COVID. We're going to lock down for 2 to 4 weeks to control the curve. We're gonna implement these laws and mask mandates and all this. But clearly things have changed. And we can't have the same exact rules that we operated in, 6, 12, 18 months ago that are moving forward. So when did Boris Johnson make this speech? 2
days ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So clearly things have
3 days
changed
ago.
to the point where he's like, all right, we are no longer going to do the mandates, the requirements that have been done because things have changed. We're starting to live with COVID. The living in fear of COVID is now gone. People are tired of wearing freaking masks. Things have changed. So you got to adapt. Adaptation is the key to life. Things have changed. Keep
Why
your head
were
on the
they
swivel.
laughing in Parliament?
I don't know if they were laughing per se.
I heard applause. I heard relief.
No. The first one was laughing. The second one was applause.
Well, those are the ones wearing the masks in the
No,
House
no.
of
The
Commons.
first one was laughing. The second one was applause. I know what he's talking about. At first, when he said we're gonna remove the mask mandate, they were laughing. And he was.
And
said,
they're all
hey,
laughing behind their masks.
Yeah. So why it is? Look, here's the other part that you got to realize. First of all, question becomes Newsom. Do you trust the judgment of Californians? I'm curious. Do you? Do you trust the judgment of Californians to make the right decision for themselves, or do you trust that you make better choices for Californians than they do? And Mr. President Biden and Kamala Harris, do you trust the judgment of the American people, or do you think you're better at making decisions for us than us? That's the real question. Do you think we can make the right decision for ourselves? Because I think right now, here's the right move, and I predict this is what's going to be happening in the next 30, 60 days. I think 30, 60 days, you're going to hear the same exact thing. You're going to hear a speech from Biden, and the media is going to run with it. He's going to say, due to our policies and what things we did with COVID, boosters, all this other stuff, and the help of Anthony Fauci, we are now removing masks, and we are now this with kids, and we are now doing this with schools, and applause. Oh, my gosh, because midterms is around the corner. Do not be surprised if Joe Biden gives the same exact speech. And by the way, I thought that's what's going to happen yesterday with his press conference, and it was going to be a victory, and it became the complete opposite. Yesterday was an opportunity for them to do the same thing. You understand what I'm saying? Like, he could have had the same kind of a situation. Hey, let me tell you what we're doing. Due to this, we're doing this. But nope, they stuck to their guns. and a UK is now making progress, and America is not making progress. Okay, so
No, and the economy's slowing really fast. So he can say whatever he wants in 30 to 60 days. If some of the trends that are emerging continue, it's going to be irrelevant because his supporters are starting to get hit where it hurts.
But your key point in that, Pat, was that they're going to do it because of midterms. That's it. Not because they trust the people.
Not because they believe themselves.
Right. They want a nanny state. I mean, and this is the exact debate we're in: the elitists versus the Commonwealth.
with all due respect, both sides do it. And that part, I'm not going to sit there and make it a Democratic thing. I think Republicans do it, Democrats do it. When they see all of a sudden midterms are coming and some policies are not working, they have to pivot quickly. But here's the point. What does a great coach do in the middle of a game?
Call an audible.
You make pivots.
Yeah.
That's good. You should do that. Hey, the people don't like your policies. Pivot. So the right thing they should do is they should pivot. But will they pivot? That's the question. We don't know.
How do Republicans want a nanny state?
I didn't say Republicans want a nanny
You
state.
said both parties.
No, what I said is the fact that Republicans sometimes see a policy that they introduce that didn't work and they get backlash, then they pivot. Okay, and then the Democrats say they're only pivoting because they're scared of losing midterms. You're right. So that's a both sides thing, not the nanny state thing, the fact that they pivot on their policies. Let's go to the next story. So we talked about CRT, which led to all these other stories. Let's go through a light story here that maybe I don't know, this could get heated, folks. So just brace for impact because this could get very, very emotional once I go through the story. I'm hoping everybody can handle this in a civil way, but it's not up to me. I can't control people. I trust people. That's my problem. Okay, all right, so Living Magazine. Most of us prioritize our pets' physical and mental health over our own, a new study finds. Can you put that link up so we can all see it? New survey reveals that the lengths of people will go to care for their pets, including acupuncture therapy. 3 in 5 pet parents think the pandemic has increased their Fury Pal separation anxiety. A survey of 2,000 cats and dog owners found that 59% have also gotten or have considered getting an additional animal companion for their existing pet. Of those who brought or considered to bring in a new furry friend home, roughly 3 in 5 did so to keep their first pet company, 58%, to teach them how to interact with other pets or animals, or to improve their socialization skills. When it comes to emotional support, 7 in 10 say that their pets actually rely on their own stuffed animals. Conducted by one poll on behalf of the Spot Pet Insurance, the survey also found that it takes an average of 5.5 months for a new pet to start acting odd. The most reported odd behavior are making loud noises, hiding from avoiding others, and jumping. Do you agree with this article? Do you agree with this article, Adam? How often you take your cats to acupuncture?
I think this article is singling out dogs. Hey.
It's a cat getting acupuncture.
I think this article is singling out dogs. I don't know. I see dog owners. They walk them in strollers. They have backpacks for their dogs. They're putting their dog. Nancy spends $100 a month on dog outfits over here. Like I don't rarely see cat owners
You have a
doing
cat
stuff
backpack.
like this. I'm considering getting one. Thank you.
Oh, God,
but
help
the
me.
reason that I like cats, I've been very open about this, and the reason I have 2 of them is so they can hang out and I can just peace out for the weekend. I'll see you guys in 3 days. You guys take care of yourself.
Increases their socialization
I'm not
skills.
going to micromanage you guys. I trust the science. I trust you guys to take care of yourselves. I'll see you in 3 days, and I'm out, and I'll be back. Now, if you're a dog owner, how many dog owners have to cut short whatever they're doing? I got to go walk my dog. I got to go feed my dog.
I literally bring my dog to the office.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
The
you
voice of
literally
God.
need to stop. But I get it. Yeah.
So how many people here bring their dog? Nancy brings her
That
dog. David brings her
barks
dog.
50
Eric brings her
times
dog.
a day. Every time
Cats
somebody's-
are way more independent than dogs.
It's
That's basically what I'm saying.
It's true. It's true. But just out of curiosity, do you have any pets? You said you guys have a dog because your kid is allergic to cats, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have 1 or 2?
1.
How about yourself, Danielle?
We littermate basset hounds. Dumb as rocks. Great dogs.
How many dogs, Danielle?
Two basset hounds.
2 dogs.
How
And
about
you have
yourself,
one.
Tyler?
I got 2 dogs, and they're both. We can't leave the house for 5 minutes. They will lose their mind.
Seriously?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They
Maybe you
freak
should
out.
consider acupuncture.
Yes, I
So
think
you
that's
got-
where I'm headed.
I have 2 cats, and you've
tomorrow.
got what?
I got 2 intimidating Shih Tzus. Is what I got.
And then you had one. You had a 3rd dog.
yeah, which
that lasted
Kobe,
how long?
1 month because he was biting the other 2.
Yeah.
And Melva and Tico and everybody couldn't handle it. I said, listen,
Hot sauce.
Eric is
Hot sauce.
Eric
Another
is
Drake
handling it.
reference.
That's right. Hot sauce.
But is this a waste of money?
Yeah, but by the way, a part of it, like I remember the way we got Jimbo is Jimbo came and jumped on my lap. I said, I want to take this dog home. I said, and I feel bad to separate the brothers. I'll take the other brother as well. I think they need company. I think dogs need company, right? Just like here's a question. Let me ask this question, not to make comparisons of human beings and dogs. John, I hope you don't get offended by this. Full disclaimer to everybody out there. How many of you in here are an only child? John, you're an only child? And Danielle, you're not. Tyler, you're an only child?
Yeah, basically. My siblings are 12 years older, so yeah, I'm basically an
You're not really.
You're not an only child, buddy.
bro.
You got
Like,
older
listen,
siblings.
basically
Relax.
12 years.
You're not.
David, are you an only child?
No, sir.
How about Adam? You're not. You got
have
a
my
sister,
sister,
Jen. Yeah.
yeah.
So what do you think about nowadays the conversation like we're just going to have one kid? Do any of you have an opinion of having only one kid and being an only child? Do you have any stories, testimonies, and opinions on this?
I dated an only child once.
How sweet was he?
A little bit too sweet.
Clingy?
He was well taken care of his entire life, and I hope that he married, I don't know, maybe a nurse. Yeah, somebody very caring, and giving with her time, all of her time.
What does that mean, Danielle? Unpack that a little
Yeah,
bit.
I think she made her point, buddy.
He was a little clingy. He was a stalker.
No, he needed attention. Like
He
he needed
needed
somebody to
attention?
mommy him.
Okay,
He didn't need a
gotcha.
mom, not a wife. Is in other words, is what
Gotcha.
he needed.
Bingo.
Yeah.
John, how many kids do you have?
I have 2 kids, and this is one thing that's researchable, unlike the so-called study from a company that sells pet insurance. I don't believe that.
No
That's the
conflict of interest.
consumer.
No conflict
That's
of
the
interest.
consumer investigative journalist calling them out right there.
But we once tried to look at who does well in life, the only children, the large families, and there really was almost no difference, except firstborns and lastborns did better in areas you could measure, like school, than the kids in the middle. And who knows why.
You haven't met my middle.
The firstborns get more attention.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And the lastborns get what? More freedom?
Maybe, I don't know.
They
And
totally
the,
get
and
more freedom.
The middle kids are just kind of stuck in the middle. Clowns to the left
I
of me,
mean,
jokers
let's
to the
not
right. stuck in the middle.
overgeneralize. They found
You did it, John. What do you mean? You're
found it-
citing your study.
there was a small difference.
Okay.
But that's a fair criticism.
Yeah.
And,
You keep
know,
contradicting
I
the
work
whole
in-
show,
I
John.
work
You're
in TV
contradicting
news.
yourself.
Okay,
We
but,
overgeneralize.
By the time the youngest comes around, you're just like, oh, whatever, eat it off the floor. I'm sorry, you're in the middle of the highway. By the time the youngest comes around, if there were 4 of them, I mean, you're just like, whatever.
By the way, who's listening to this and is an only child? Like, if you're listening to this, and as an only child growing up, as an adult, did you say, "I wish I had a sibling"? Like, did you sit there and say, "I wish I had a sibling," or did you say, "Nah, I was good. I had friends, I had cousins, I had people around me. I didn't need another sibling"?
But are you shocked to hear his? Because I think you were basically inferring that an only child would lead to lesser success in life. Is that where you're going with this? Because he's basically saying that that's not true.
You look at Kennedy's, right? You have Joseph, who was the most ambitious, who died in war as a pilot, right? But the father was named his oldest son after him. And he thought he was going to be the one that's the president. And the kid that had back problems, health issues his entire life, the youngest, who wasn't ambitious, who never had aspirations of being a president, he ends up becoming a president. So the dynamics are very weird when you look at it. Now,
He wasn't the youngest.
He wasn't. He was the second, but he was the number 3, I think he was, or number.
Because Robert was younger, I thought.
Yeah, no, I think he was the second youngest, but I think there's.
But he
Joseph-
wasn't. He wasn't the designated one.
No, nobody
He
thought
wasn't the
he's going to
chosen
be.
one.
Even Robert, they thought Robert was more ambitious than John was. Can you say how many presidents we've had that say
Only child?
Only child. Have we had any only presidents only child? Is Elon Musk only child? He's not.
No, he's got a brother
Yeah,
that
he's got
works
a
in the
brother. That's
company.
right. That's right. How many presidents were only children? I'm actually curious now.
None.
No presidents have ever been the only child. George Washington, Franklin Roosevelt, George Clinton, Barack Obama had half siblings, but no full siblings. Okay, so maybe that's a form of only child. Washington, Franklin, FDR, Ford, and Bill Clinton, and Obama. But I don't know. I don't know. My opinion would be, for what it's worth, I think there's competition in having more than a kid, more than one kid. I think there is things you learn. I think you have an edge.
I mean,
think the
sibling
oldest
rivalry
Yeah,
it teaches you how to deal with rivals in life.
yeah, I mean, Jordan became Jordan because his older brother, Adrian, would punk him and bully him, and he says, "I'm going to get better than you in basketball." I think there's a
Rashad Evans yesterday said he became a fighter because his older brotber would
tell
say,
him
"Go fight that
yeah.
guy."
So, I mean, I don't know. I'd like to research this John Stossel study that he just claimed here. That I'd like to
show
study.
your work, John.
Well, this
show
is
your work.
It's a famous Thomas Sowell point when he
You
talks
want to
about
see my
equity.
work? You got to watch Stossel TV.
I do.
That's right.
bring
We're
it
gonna
here.
put the
I do.
link
I'm
below.
a fan.
Go subscribe to his channel. Go ahead, buddy.
Stossel TV
I
on
was just going
YouTube.
to say, this is a Thomas Sowell point that he's been making for years when they
Yeah.
talk about equity of outcome, and it's all about your circumstances. To John's point, a big thing is the first children usually do better. They're smarter. They're more taken care of. More attention is given to them. That's why you can't ever have equality of outcome in a sense, because it's all about your circumstances.
I just did a famous only child. Famous only. Is that the right word? I typed in famous only.
You typed in OnlyFans by accident.
No, I typed in 10,
Okay.
10 famous only children is the proper English. So-
Isn't DuckDuckGo great that we can just get answers to questions on our little phone for free?
You're
should
saying as
stop-
opposed to Google.
Well, both of them, but I was plugging it because it's less evil than Google. But
Okay.
It is.
we should stop and thank, I
Yeah.
guess, the inventor of, we should thank the Apple creators because it's great. I waste so much time on my thing.
Oh, you're saying DuckDuckGo or Google. You didn't just, that was not a shout out just to DuckDuckGo. By the way, the list of only children. Lance Armstrong, only.
That
Okay.
doesn't surprise me.
He's by himself biking. Maybe that's like not a team player. Frank Sinatra, only child. Okay.
The greatest.
Natalie Portman, only child. Robin Williams, wow, only child. Tiger Woods, only child. Laura Bush, only child. Teller of Penn and Teller, only child.
What is this proving?
We're shooting
Okay,
the
just
shit.
one.
Why are
Go
you
with
making
this,
this
John.
I'm sorry.
complicated, dude? What? Okay,
It's your show. You can do
Robert De Niro,
Only child.
only child. Okay.
What about Musk's point that if everybody just has one child, the world is kind of screwed? Because we're keep rudely living longer and demanding that the state pay all our health care bills.
You're on fire today. You
We've
start
just
off
had-
disagreeing and then you validate
We've
the
just
point.
had the birth rate in the
We're
United
going to have to have
States
John
fall.
move to Florida.
Yeah.
We're going to have a conversation with John's wife and figure out what it's going to take to move them to Florida.
Possibly a taser.
You say when the Democrats move here, they stay Democrats. They just don't like the nanny state. Why
Not
don't they
all of them.
become libertarians then?
Yeah, not all of them. No,
Or
by the way,
independents.
but they are. They are. You have to realize, first time I sat down with this guy and I met him and I started talking to him, he was in a complete different place versus where he is today. He says if DeSantis goes, he would consider voting for DeSantis, even though he's a diehard Trump fan.
No,
That's
but you bring up a
sarcasm,
point.
John, just in case your poker side didn't catch that. But yeah, so let's go to the story with Elon Musk and what he's talking about. I think that's just a perfect segue into it. Elon Musk laments the declining birth rate. If there aren't enough people for Earth, then there definitely won't be enough people for Mars. This is an insider story. Elon Musk says people should be concerned about the population collapse. There's people that talk about depopulation. This guy's talking about overpopulation. He wants more kids, not less kids. Musk shared his worries in a series of tweets on Wednesday following a general decline in birth rate. Amid the pandemic in the U.S., the birth rate fell 4% from 2019 to 2020, marking the country's lowest number of births since 1979, which I thought they would have had more kids because you're spending more time with your spouse. Musk is aiming to put humans in a settlement on Mars. He said that SpaceX will land humans on the planet with its Starship rocket in 5 to 10 years. But if the demographic crisis doesn't let up, there won't be enough people for Mars, he said. Last month, Musk, the father of 6, said that unless people have more children, civilization is going to crumble. Adam, your thoughts, because I know this is very personal to you.
Oh, you said you thought that people would have more kids during the pandemic because they're home alone.
Didn't you? Like everybody was talking about people having more sex, they're
instinctually, but I'll
spending
tell
more
you
time.
this:
Yeah.
there's nothing sexy about a pandemic. There's nothing sexy about masks. You literally had to social distance.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you weren't going to meet up with people at bars. You weren't going to. It wasn't conducive to procreation. But I don't know. Okay, look. Is Elon a visionary? Yes. Is he the richest guy in the world? Yes. Is he just a complete beast? Amazing. I don't get the Mars thing. I don't get the obsession with Mars. I would rather him focus on improving Earth, the only planet we've ever known and probably will ever know. I've done some. You know how cold it is on average in Mars? You know, let me throw some stats your way. Mars is further from the sun than the Earth, okay? It's a very cold planet. The average temperature on Earth, 55 degrees Fahrenheit. The average temperature on Mars, minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit.
He's taking heaters, though. He's taking heaters
Okay,
with them.
how long do you actually think it takes, assuming people get on rocket ships, to get to Mars? How long do you think?
To get to Mars from
Yeah.
here? I have no idea.
Just take a guess.
It
7
takes
days.
years.
7 days?
I thought it took a
How about
year.
a half a year if you're lucky,
yeah.
and it takes a year on average?
That's what I thought.
It's
It's a
going to take
slow
you.
rocket ship.
People get upset about doing 16 hours from New York to Dubai. You think you're going to enjoy your 1 year flight, buddy? Enjoy that. I don't get it. All right,
The flight's going to land. Nobody's going to be alive. They'll have killed each other by then.
100%. That people are freaking out on planes these days because if you don't wear a mask, you're fist fighting right now. What's going to happen on a year-long flight to Mars?
But I think they're supposed to like cryogenically do something to where they like knock your ass out for the first 6 months of the trip.
Okay. Well,
Or he'll invent something like a fax machine. We'll just be
Faxed over to Mars.
Teleport. You're talking about
teleported to
teleporting.
Yeah.
Mars.
Okay, now
That's like an 80s reference now. Teleport.
John's actually
Anyway,
going back to Star Trek. He's
I assume-
just
So
gonna
temperature,
beat
you talk
me
about
up.
temperature, you talk about 6 to 12 months.
Yes.
What else do you have
There's
for us?
very little oxygen. You can't really breathe. It's basically mostly carbon dioxide. Obviously,
Preach
here
me.
we're oxygen. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what we breathe here. And here's another little fact: plants can't even grow on Mars. So this obsession with Mars sounds amazing, and obviously, I've been very vocal that I think Elon Musk is literally trying to bang aliens. That's hence why he made his girlfriend dress up as an alien and get alien tattoos, and then he broke up with her.
People have different fetishes.
I don't know. That's his fetish. But
He broke up with her, so he's a single dad of 6
Yeah,
kids.
6 kids.
yeah, yes, they are no longer together. Grimes, I believe.
She
is
was
her
like
name.
9 years old anyway, right? She's much
Easy.
younger than
Whoa, 9 years younger or 9 years old, John?
She
Stossel?
was not 9 years young.
Hyperbole.
She was 30 years young.
Okay, she was much younger. But the point is, I wish that he would use his amazing knowledge and double down on green energy and Neuralink and everything that he's doing here, and just we're not moving to Mars. I don't
Saz,
know,
do you think he hasn't thought of this? Like, do you think he's going to watch this podcast and be like, you know what? I'm not going to go to Mars.
I don't
Adam
think-
just made a great point. I hadn't realized that it's that long. Fuck.
Yes.
I mean, that's a great point.
Maybe
voice
he's
of God right
maybe
there.
he's the wealthiest man in the world, and he wants to keep his share price up.
I think it's a distraction, the Mars thing.
But
think
he's just trying to make sure that he maintains his mystique. That's
Exactly.
it. That's why his stock price
Thank
is
you.
up.
Wait.
Thank you.
Let me ask you guys a question. Do you think this Mars thing is just a troll, like he's bullshitting?
No.
You think
on,
so,
I
I think
Patrick?
partially
Stop.
yes.
You think he's trying to
Partially,
elevate his
Stop.
stock price?
You guys are so funny.
I'll be damned.
You are so funny. You think this guy's joking? You think this guy's joking?
I actually don't think he's joking.
Okay,
but
good.
by the
Yeah, I don't
time
think
that-
he's joking.
Do you think people will be living in Mars by the time Elon Musk dies? Let's say he lives to age 100.
I don't hold anything away from that guy. That guy's
So
a
that's
vision-
it. You're believing that we're going to Mars.
I don't. Dude, I didn't say
Sorry.
that.
I
didn't say
had a
that.
little
What
extra
I'm
coffee today.
What I'm saying to
What
you
are you
is-
trying to say, Pat?
What I'm saying to you is, I think that guy is determined to do that. What seems very interesting to me, this
Mm-hmm.
was a story about not enough kids being born, and you were concerned about Mars. Okay,
Well,
that's a completely different thing. But
That's the highlight. He
but I-
says there
but I-
aren't enough people on
Yeah, but-
Earth.
but
How are we definitely
Adam,
going to get
Adam,
to Mars?
you can do so much more though yourself. You just got to put your mind to it.
I would say
Having
this.
kids.
I would say this.
Actually,
I
more than your
think-
mind.
I think Elon Musk is extremely aspirational. I think Elon Musk, I fully believe that what I'm about to tell you. I think he believes he would come out with a better foundation than what America was founded on. I fully believe that. Like, I think he looks at the Constitution, says, I agree with 92%. Here's 8% of what I would have changed. Look at what's going on in America today. And I think he'd love to run a country. I think he'd love to run a community of millions of people. Like, he'd love to be a president. He can't do that in U.S.
Because he was born in South Africa.
And he would love to go to a different place to do it and prove that his case study works, that look at the kind of a environment I created. I think his ambition, he's that confident in his philosophies. I think that's the angle.
And he's going to do that in Mars.
I don't know if he's going to do that. All I'm saying to you is, in his mind, if I'm speculating
Because
and
he's got the money to buy a
psychoanalyzing,
country
that's-
if he wants. I mean, if
that's
he really
kinda
wants
what-
to put his mind to it, he
can buy an island,
He can
no
go buy a
problem.
country. I didn't say an island. No, I'm talking about a big old country. He
John,
can
what do you
afford
think
to buy a
about
big
this?
country.
I think he was joking when he talked about Mars, but the math is just the math.
Yeah.
There aren't going to be enough young people to pay into the fund that pays Medicare and Social Security. And it's getting worse the less we procreate.
So your encouragement to the youngest to go procreate more?
Well, my daughter is procreating.
How many does she have?
It's a tough one. She has just had one, and she's going to have another. But she has the assets to make it possible. And people have individually better lives when they're struggling if they don't have a whole bunch of kids. People used to have a whole bunch of kids because half of them died.
And the others were working on the farm.
We're needed for that. Now, it used to be 90% worked on the farm. Now it's 2%.
That's why we have summer break, I believe.
And yet,
It says
when
you
you
have 3
see what's
months to work
happened,
in the fields.
you know, in a post-CARES Act world, a lot of the smallest businesses in America, why are they still open? Because they were family-owned and family-run.
You know, but there is this whole thing about, do I really want to have kids? Okay. I talk to a lot of people who flat out say, I don't know if I want to have kids. I don't know if I should have kids. I don't know if I want that responsibility. I don't know if I want to raise my kids in today's society. I'm concerned on what it is to raise a kid in today's society. You know, there are really a lot of people that are coming from a place of, I don't want the responsibility, and I don't want to be able to raise kids in today's society.
Plus, the climate crisis, the world will be unlivable.
12 years from now, the world's going to end, based on AOC. What she said, it's a factual statement she made, that if we go at this pace, I don't know
Is
if that
she still
concerns
here?
you.
Sorry.
Yeah, she's still got 15 million followers on Twitter, and you know her message is
I thought
spreading.
she could have left with De Blasio. I mean, we could that would be like a buy one get one free.
No matter how much people say about her, she keeps getting bigger and bigger, and her audience keeps climbing in that youth.
Well,
She
she's
speaks
influencing.
well, and she's good looking.
She is articulate and she is pretty, and I'll give you all that. But all of the legislation that's up on the hill seems to be failing.
Okay, so to you, is this really a concern to you with what Elon Musk is talking about? Meaning, so do you think this is so serious where there should be a campaign to inspire folks to have more kids? Or do you think this is a financial reason why people are not having more kids? Do you think this is a responsibility? I don't want to have more kids. What do you think this is?
Well, there already is a
no.
campaign. Just
Yeah.
look at China. China had a one-child policy for how many decades, and
And
now
in-
they're
Yeah, but
encouraging
there's
having
not- yeah.
more than. I think you're allowed to have up to 3 kids in China now.
India lapped them. Their biggest concern is
Exactly.
India.
So
Yeah.
China has 1.3 billion people, and they've been limiting the supply of kids, supply and demand economics. And there's basically what's the average age of people in China? India is way younger than them. So now they're basically procreate.
And they can't get the people to do it because they're like, I want to make sure that I've got the financial wherewithal, and I only think that I have that for one child. And a lot of Americans who are of a younger age and see housing prices as being off the rails and the ability to, I mean, if you've got the means, if you've got the wherewithal, fine. But a lot of people are like, you know what? I can only really afford to bring up one kid.
Yeah.
I can't move to.
Is there
Greenwich,
anything
you know,
wrong with that? Is there anything wrong with that thinking?
With that thinking? No.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfectly
Okay.
logical.
I'm with that as well, because I don't think you ought to have more kids if you can't afford to have more kids. Of
course not.
But I also think if you have the money and the resources, I think you ought to consider having 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kids. I
Okay,
think you ought to
stop
think
it.
about that.
Yeah, okay.
10, 12,
But
14, 16,
I also
18,
think
28.
there is going to be a millennial baby boom because
They better
millennials
hurry up.
are waiting longer to have kids. A generation ago, you would have kids at age 21, 22, 25.
All right. Okay. We're
Now-
gonna have to
Now
Google.
millennials will wait till 30, 35.
Yeah, but that by definition that means that you can't have as many.
So, okay, let's go
but
to
you
the
can
next
still
story.
have 2,
Of
3.
course, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be limited by
Yeah,
one.
but the economy has to be able to lift everybody up right now, and the way that we've been forming economic policy in this country, you're going backwards.
You're basically saying it's the economy, stupid.
It is the economy, stupid.
There we go. Danielle and I agree.
Okay,
Boom,
I'm going to give a
drop
shout
mic.
out to a couple people. Bidzina Mosia Shivli said, Reason TV is the bomb. John says it like it is. I agree. We should focus our efforts to fix Earth, but we do need everyone doing that. I think, but do we need everyone doing that? I think not. Next one, another super chat. John, I wanted to pay my dues. Thanks to you, I have found my love for Austrian economics. I'm now operating my own blockchain startup. Thanks to you. And after today's podcast, I plan on having 7 kids. The last part was me. The last part was me. He didn't say that. I'm just joking. I'm giving you a hard time. But by the way, Rodolfo Ramirez said something very interesting. He said, if you can teach CRT in school, you should also be able to teach religion in school. Okay? That's an interesting perspective. If you want to let CRT in, why don't we let religion in and Bible in school if we're going to go that route? Anyways, okay, let's go to the next topic here with President Biden. on what happened with the press conference. Did you watch the press conference? Did you?
No. And wasn't it 2 days ago?
2 days ago, yes.
Yeah,
Danielle,
Wednesday.
were you able to watch it?
I watched some of it.
Adam,
did.
did you?
I did watch some of it, the highlights, yes.
Okay, well then let me read a little bit of it, and then you guys tell me if you caught any of it.
Oh, I've got a really special part
Okay,
of it
good.
that I want Tyler to pull
Then
up.
perfect. So Biden's press conference was an utter disaster, says New York Post. If President Biden's press conference Wednesday was supposed to inspire confidence, it failed horribly, even though he spent most of it clearly calling on reporters from a list of safe questionnaire provided by his staff. He stumbled and bumbled and all too often made no sense at all. Plus, he repeated his bizarre whisper-shout gimmick to emphasize certain points when what it actually emphasized is his age. His answers on Ukraine were particularly confused. The issue is pretty straightforward. Vladimir Putin is threatening an invasion and will do it if he thinks he can get away with it. At the least, he'll try to get the West to bribe him by promising him much of what he wants without any fighting. Then, too, he ought to say Putin would win, albeit at a heavy price. The cost of going into Ukraine is a terms of physical loss of life for the Russians. They'll be able to prevail over time, but it's going to be heavy. Anyways, there was a bunch of different things that was discussed.
His own State Department, during the press conference, was sending out clarifications to what he was saying because he was contradicting the State Department's plans that were public. And his own State Department was like, oh, sorry, you just made a boo-boo.
Yeah, they asked us, so, he just said that he believes there's going to be meddling in the midterms for elections. And Psaki's like, well, no, that's not what he said. What he was trying to say is, no, his words.
Yeah.
He said there's going to be meddling in 2022 midterm elections. That's not what he meant. And then Kamala Harris was pushed on it as well. She got really upset. And even Morning Joe, your guy, came out and said, Putin and Xi see this, and they see Biden as weak. They don't see him as a strong leader of a country. But what was your biggest takeaway watching the press conference?
Look, if this article was written by the Washington Post or something on CNN, I think it would have a lot more credence. And I understand that the
Hey, Bloomberg was reporting the
Okay.
same kinds of. I mean, even the liberal media has gotten pushed to the point where they're like,
Yeah.
they've got to recognize some of these gaffes.
Yeah, there's no doubt that the guy is sort of a stumbling, bumbling, gaffe machine. But then again, so was Donald Trump, and that's why Biden was elected. Biden was elected not because he was going to be some superhuman hero to transform America. It was because he was not Donald Trump.
What's a whisper shout?
When he's like, "Hey, listen, John Stossel, you come at me, buddy. I'm gonna challenge you to a push-up contest, buddy."
That's a whisper.
Yeah, and I'm yelling on the inside. Stossel, me and you were playing volleyball, buddy. That's the whisper shot.
Thank you.
Okay. I also think that the media, Biden doesn't do much to get a lot of media attention like Trump did. So the one thing that they will get the media attention is, look at him. He's an old, stumbling, bumbling fool. Oh, okay, cool. They'll get some clicks. I mean, you worked in media forever. But, Pat, I actually want to get your thoughts on this one comment that he made, because he was talking about basically he's touting his infrastructure and basically no surprise medical bills. And he basically said the words, we're not going back to lockdowns. We're not going back to school closings. He said these words. Hey, look, man, I'm a capitalist. But capitalism without competition is not capitalism, it's exploitation. So the fact that Joe Biden came out and basically called himself a capitalist,
Stop.
I think that's, so what? Stop. Why am I stopping?
No. Like, what I mean is stop. Because I can be 400 pounds and tell you cheesecake's not good for you. You should stop eating cheesecake. It's just not good for you.
What provoked him to say that? What was the question?
That was part of his speech. I didn't see him answering any questions.
He's being attacked by
First of all,
by the middle of his party for trying to promote socialism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look, the fact that he even came out and said that, you got to applaud him for saying, look, I'm a capitalist. But even capitalism has some issues.
Well, then why don't you try and back some capitalist policies?
Hey, I agree.
First of all, listen, let me simplify something for you, okay? The other day we showed the Steve Harvey deal, right? What did Steve Harvey show? Steve Harvey showed that the difference between the reason why Dave Chappelle can get away with anything is because he's got what? Subscription.
Subscription, not
He
sponsors.
says not sponsors. When you're sponsors, you can't say everything, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is Biden a subscription model or a sponsorship model?
Sponsorship.
Okay, then he's not going to say what he's saying behind closed doors. He's going to say, Pfizer, don't worry about it, bro. I just have to say that so I can get the people's confidence. But we got you. I still need your $48 million on my campaign. Don't worry about it. So Subscription model on who became a president or who had a shot at becoming a president is the following names, just so you know. Not sponsorship, whether you like this or not. Sanders was a subscription model. Obama's first term was a subscription model. Trump's first term was a subscription model. So don't give me this bullshit about
AOC.
Yeah, AOC is a subscription model. This ain't about left or right. This is why I respect Sanders, because he's a subscription model, okay?
It's a very good
This
point.
guy is not a subscription model. This guy is a sponsorship model that has to say whatever the money people tell him behind closed doors. And that's most of the presidents we've had in the last few decades.
That's most politicians, to be honest.
Yeah, but this is why people liked Obama and they wanted Trump and they wanted Sanders. That's a subscription
They
model.
couldn't be bought.
This, guys, this is not about policies. This is just telling you, $5, $10, $20, $40. 88% of our donors are $5 donor. 88%, you know, those statistics that they say. Yeah, these guys cannot say that. You remember that one time, who was the person that was being interviewed? You know what it was? It was Tucker had Jim Jordan on. And I don't know, was Jim Jordan who it was? Actually, I do think it was Jim Jordan when Tucker said, hey, can you, all this stuff that you say about Google and all this other guys, can you explain to us why you took a majority of your contribution is coming from Silicon Valley? I don't know if you remember that or not. It was
Jim Jordan?
I thought it was Jim. I'd like to verify this. I don't want to put his name out there and defame his character if you can verify that. But the point is, the moment you go that route, okay, and you take money from Silicon Valley, you can't sit there and say, this censorship bullshit that they're doing. Yes, Facebook, I'll take your $100,000, but this sucks. Stop it.
Yep.
Stop it. You're acting on what you're doing. Yeah, I said it right. Who is that? Is it Jim Jordan? I was right. How long ago was that, by the way? Can you pull that up and see how long?
It was a year ago.
Yeah, a year ago. I remember that. So that to me, the moment that, and I'm a Jim Jordan guy, I'm like, wait a minute. You're taking money from these guys, yet you're bashing censorship? So that's what I mean by stop it. You know, I may be wrong.
No, I think it's a valid point. I like the analogy that you did with the subscription versus sponsorship.
These are a lot of sponsorship presidents we got here. Please, John.
I disagree that they're doing it for the money. I think the main motivator is what will people like? What will make me popular? What will not piss people off? The money is secondary.
Okay, I disagree. Here's why. You do that on camera, you're right. You're absolutely right on camera, for sure. 1,000,000% you're right. But camera is Hollywood. Behind closed doors, sitting down doing deals, that's real life.
All right, but we were talking about this in the context of the news conference.
Sure, I get that, but he was explaining it from a standpoint of saying, what do you think about the fact that he said this, I'm a capitalist, but at the same time, you know, sometimes capitalism without competition is exploitation. You're right. So every time you raise minimum wage, who in the behind closed doors goes like this? Amazon says, do it again. Walmart says, do it again. We don't pay anybody $15 an hour. People just want to trash us. Do it again. But the small guy that's sitting there running a restaurant says, dude, I have no clue. How the hell am I supposed to pay this waitress from $7.25 to $15 an hour and tips and restaurant? My burgers are going to go from $8 to $19. I can't afford to do that. Yeah, big businesses love it when they raise minimum wage. So yeah, that's what I mean by exploitation. These are the guys, politicians are the guys with their policies that eliminate competition. If you leave people alone, competition will typically take care of itself, minus the monopoly side, which is kind of happening right now.
And you'd think we would have discovered this by now, that people would understand. Look at Hong Kong. They went from third world to first world because the government left them alone and people were free to compete. 15% flat tax. And the British rulers sat around and drank tea, left people to pursue their own affairs. And that took them from poor to our level of prosperity.
Our level of prosperity today or back then?
Oh, I'm talking 10, now China's wrecking it, but it's
Sorry,
been
my former employer is about to pull the plug on this thing, so the Federal Reserve.
But to pull the plug on what, Danielle?
On liquidity, on what makes markets go, and
Things
stay
that
happy.
make you go, What do you mean by that?
They're January the 1st, they increased the reduction of purchases into the market. Mm-hmm. They doubled it, so now they're $45 billion less that they're
reversing the quantitative easing. Is what
exactly,
you're
and they'll be finished by mid-March, and it's fully anticipated.
So then what
and there's
happens
so
after
much political.
mid-March?
Biden at his press conference said it's time for the Fed to take care of inflation, not mine. It's not our worry. That's the Fed's purview.
But your tone of voice says you like the quantitative easing.
No, hell no.
Okay.
No, you
don't know, Danielle. That's DDB right there.
No,
John
I wrote a book
Stossel.
called Fed Up, Why the Federal Reserve is Bad for America after working there for 9 years. No.
Oops.
No, but it's hysterical that the Biden administration is placing all of the blame on the supply chain disruption. You can't even make this stuff up.
By the way, this whole thing with Dubai, right? Dubai Emirates suspends flights to several U.S. destinations on 5G concerns. This is a Reuters story. The move is due to operational concerns associated with the planned development of 5G mobile network services in the U.S. The company said that the destinations include Boston, Chicago, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Miami, Newark, Orlando, San Francisco, and Seattle. We are working closely with aircraft manufacturers and the relevant authorities to alleviate operational concerns, and we hope to resume our U.S. services as soon as possible. The carrier said the White House said earlier on Tuesday that it wants to reach a solution on 5G development that protects air safety while minimizing disruption to air travel. How much of this really is 5G? How much of it is protecting a different messaging that's happening behind closed doors with traveling with vaccination cards? How much of it is, where do you think this story lies? John, I'm going to go to you first.
I can't answer any of those questions. It's fear porn again. It's Y2K. The planes are going to crash. But isn't 5G already in use?
Yeah.
And
the
the
airlines have
planes
already
aren't
said
crashing.
no. The major U.S. airlines have already told the FAA no.
They've told them no about what?
About shutting down,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Meaning what, though? They're going to shut down flights?
They're not going to.
The big American airlines, the FAA was like, we got to figure this 5G thing out, and it's scrambling. It's not safe for you to be in the sky. And American Airlines were like, not American Airlines itself, but big American airline companies were like,
I got you.
No,
I
sorry.
got you. Play this video because Tyler's got this video that he wants to show with 5G. Again, folks, this is just a video. I don't want you to lose your mind. It's just a video Tyler found. Go ahead.
So, and then the caption here is the FAA published 1,400 plus notices to airmen about 5G and international airlines. They were canceling flights. They warned pilots not to use their radio altimeter at more than 80 airports in the U.S. It just drives the gauges wild.
Yeah.
It scrambles them, but you're assuming that the pilot can't fly the plane.
And that they won't adjust to this.
Well, he can't fly the plane if he doesn't have his gauges and he doesn't know where he's at and his altitude and whether he's not, if he's straight and level, if he's in a bank, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Then why haven't we seen planes come down?
Yeah, how do I know that's just not a faulty radar? That's just something that. How do I know that's
why
because
I said,
of 5G?
You're right, David. That's why I said, this is just a video that Tyler found online that's showing that.
Well, let me throw some stats your way because 20 major airports have basically created a buffer zone. All the major airports in New York, LA, Miami, Orlando, DFW in Dallas, Seattle, Philly. There's 20 airports that said you cannot have 5G within 2 miles of our airport. Okay, and I'm not the 5G expert.
How are they going to stop it?
I don't know, but you can't have towers.
You'll restrict. You'll restrict towers.
Exactly, but basically, where it comes into play is not so much when they're flying around in the sky and they're 10 miles up in the air. It's regarding the landings. It's when they're closer within 1,000 feet of the tower is what they're worried about. And then the airlines of the pilot unions, which are not exactly always seeing eye to eye, they're actually lockstep on this. They're on the same page. They're basically in 100% agreement that this is basically something that they need to be very weary of, because essentially this comes down to safety over speed. What's the point of 5G? It's basically these, cell phone companies are basically putting up 5G so you can download your porn even quicker or communicate even quicker. Not you, John, obviously not you, but it's safety or speed. And, I think right now we're doing pretty good with the 4G, with the speed. The 5G is going to make it 10 times, 100 times faster, but look, we've got a pretty damn good record. If you've already come up
with a happy medium of protecting the airspace in the immediate vicinity of the airport, then okay.
Yeah, well, we've got a very good record of safety on our airline. I don't think any major U.S. airline has crashed in the last decade, if even longer. U.S. airlines, domestically, 100%. So safety is a major concern. People get scared if there's, some turbulence on a plane. Now, if there's a plane that flies off the runway, God forbid the Hudson type things happens again, so it's a safety thing. I'm not the 5G expert, but basically when you see the airlines and the pilot unions basically on the same page, that should be a telltale sign that they're very concerned about this.
And then we've found a solution.
What's the solution? The buffer zone?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I've had 5G on my phone all over the country for the
Really?
past few months. I looked down and I'm like, I'm on 5G right now.
Okay. Do you
So-
have strong feelings about this 5G, Pat?
But I doubt, I bet when I'm close to the airport this afternoon, when I'm headed back to DFW, that the 5G disappears.
I don't know. You go to these doctors and they say, "Do you have a lot of headaches?" I do. Do you wear the Apple? What do you call
Earbuds.
it? The earbuds. I'm like, I do. Well, we're getting a lot of people that are coming here saying they get a lot of headaches from wearing that. You may want to stop wearing that because of whatever radiation they're talking about. I'm like, okay, is there 100% there? I don't know. They've been talking about stuff like this for a long time. They would talk about if you live near towers, cancer increases. I mean,
it never
Or
has
windmill.
proven
yeah,
true.
that's what you said earlier. So.
I think we got to get a good investigative journalist. I think we know one that can go out there to these
He plays
airports.
too much volleyball. It's not going to happen. He plays way too much volleyball. It's problematic. So let's go. I got three other stories I'd like to get to if we can make the time. So U.S. Senate Democrats fail in bid to pass voting rights bill. Okay, another Reuters story. Adam, I just want to make sure you're happy with that. It's a Reuters story. President Joe Biden and congressional Democrats suffered twin legislative defeats late on Wednesday in their push to toughen voting rights protections in the run-up to this November's midterm elections that will determine control of Congress in 2023. In back-to-back votes late on Wednesday, Senate Republicans, first block Democrats moved to advance the voting rights legislation toward passage. It was the fifth time in less than a year that they did so. They employed the decades-old filibuster rule to stop the legislation, which requires a cooperation of at least 60 to Senate 100 members to keep bills alive. The Senate currently is 50-50 split. In lightning speed, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, a Democrat, then moved to revamp the filibuster rule by lowering the 60 vote to 50. By this time, it was not Republicans, but Schumer's own Democrats, conservatives, Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, who put the final nail in the coffin by voting against the rule change. They finally tally on limiting debate on the election reform bill 4951.
52 to 48 vote, blah, blah, blah. blah,
Okay,
blah.
so do you care even about this story?
No.
Okay, so this story, what the question I have is, what are Democrats trying to accomplish with this?
They're just trying to get a talking point out there. This is
Right,
nonsensical.
to make people think Republicans are shutting voting down, which they really aren't.
They aren't. So this is a non-story.
But speaking of shutting things down, can we talk about Facebook shutting me down and my suing them?
Facebook
know,
shut you down?
I did a piece on, is global warming really a horrible crisis? Got 24 million views on Facebook. And now they won't show it to anybody because they hire these fact checkers from the Poynter Institute, this leftist group, which is, I think, run by the St. Petersburg paper here in Florida. And they justify it by saying, well, our fact checkers found your story incomplete. Well, it's a 5-minute TV piece. Of course it's incomplete. And the fact checkers say it's wrong because Stossel said this. And they put what they say I said in quotes. And it's not what I said. They took a quote from someone else or made it up. And when we point this out, they don't change it. They're lying about me. And so far in the court case, that one headline that you just put up, they said, well, our fact checkers are really just opinions, so you can't sue us. But they call them fact checks.
Former Fox Business host John Stossel sued Facebook, alleging that the social media company had won its contracted fact-checking organization, defaming him when it flagged two of his videos, alerting viewers to missing context and partly false claims. The lawsuit also claims that Stossel's professional reputation has been significantly and irreparably damaged by the false labels and statements. Since Stossel left Fox Business, he's been releasing videos on various social platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and the endeavor has apparently been somewhat lucrative, has made around $10,000 a month from Facebook alone. My news model is based on social media. Our company's showing you videos, he said on Facebook, but when Facebook fact-checking label appeared on two videos, Stossel alleges that his ad revenue from the platform was cut by 45%. Interesting. So is this done with? Is it still going? Is it still pending?
It's still going. These
Okay.
cases take a while. And I don't care about the revenue, but Facebook used to be my main outlet in reaching millions of people. Now it's YouTube, because once these idiot fact checkers, Facebook just gives up the power to them. We don't like this. We think climate change is a bigger crisis than you implied, so you can't say it.
Are you friends with Dennis Prager?
I like what he does. We're not personal friends.
You guys have never spoken?
Years back, we've spoken.
Got it. No, only reason I ask, I'm not trying to find a conspiracy here between the two of you. I'm just saying, like, he sued YouTube, and they had a issue that they went back and forth. I don't know if you've spoken to him and his wife. Yeah, but it was a lot of good information came out of him losing. The rest of us learned a lot from it. I don't know if may not be a bad idea for the two of you guys to speak. So their argument really was that you didn't necessarily, misrepresent. It was a quote, and the whole story wasn't given. So because of that, we got to take this 24 million view video down.
They basically it's so
24
complicated
million
to say
is a
it
real
here.
number, by the way, on Facebook.
On Facebook, of course.
24 million down to 0.
Who's the Facebook guy that you interviewed? The Facebook fact checker.
Yeah. He was not a fact checker. He was not a fact checker. He
moderator.
was a moderator. He
moderator.
looked at things that they would take down and things that they wouldn't take down, and that revealed a lot. He was a guy that worked for Facebook, telling us some of the systems, and the guy got emotional in the interview because I couldn't work at Facebook anymore because of what was going on. But he wasn't working for Facebook. He was an independent third-party organization that moderated. So a lot of these guys are third-party people that are not necessarily Facebook.
Almost all of them.
Yeah.
Moderators are kind words for censors.
And it's a tough job because you want to keep child molestation off and direct threats of violence. And so these poor guys have to view all this creepy stuff all day.
Yeah, but
mine is different.
As the Supreme Court said, you know pornography when you see it. That's what the Supreme Court said. We're talking about the difference between
child porn?
censorship. Well, again, you know it when you see it. And I believe in the Supreme Court's ruling, but censorship is a whole different matter.
But John, we've obviously seen a lot of censorship and things being taken down regarding
And they have
vaccines.
every right
regarding
to do it.
vaccines. We've seen that.
Right.
So you
and I
but
hate
not
it,
regarding,
but they can do it legally. But they can't lie about me.
What, they have every right to do what?
To take down anything they want. It's their
Discretion.
Company.
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
They,
That's
but
my position.
They've made it very clear that if they don't like what you're saying about vaccines, you're cut. This is the first I've heard about global warming, though. And you think that's like you're suing them, but at the same time you actually agree that they can take it down?
right. But they can't lie about me. They took it down and they say, I said this. I didn't say this. We contacted the reviewers for the censors.
His
They hadn't
argument
watched
is
it.
defamation of character position. His position is not you can't take the video down. That's the argument that he's making. Okay, that's hurting his reputation as somebody that's been doing this for decades.
And because I'm former Real reporter, when the stuff came out, we called them and said, would you talk to me? And 2 of them agreed to interviews. We showed them the piece, and they said, well, if you thought we criticized this because we saw it, no, we never watched it. What the hell?
Did they make a public announcement? Did they say anything? Did they give you an email? Did they give you words? Did they write about it somewhere where we chose to take this down? Was there anything that they came back with to protect your reputation?
I'm confused by who the they is.
Facebook.
There. No, Facebook
Okay.
just doesn't respond. They say, we leave it to the fact checker, appeal to them. And they
Passing
don't-
the buck.
and letting the people be their own judge. Letting the fact checkers just decide if they're right or wrong. And of course they say, we're right. This piece doesn't make people understand the climate crisis.
Well, listen, since you don't like to be controversial, I want to read one of your non-controversial stories here. John Stossel, is it time to abolish the FDA? Unethical to deny Americans of life-saving drugs. This is a real clear politics story. Thousands of people per week continue to die from COVID-19, yet America's FDA stops people from taking drugs that might save lives. John Stossel weighs in. Stossel, I'm surprised that we haven't heard more about new drugs that make COVID less of a threat. One drug reduced the risk of death or hospitalization by 89% in trials. The media probably doesn't report on them, much because you and I aren't permitted to take them. The FDA makes everyone wait until the drugs meet the agency's rigorous standards, but while we wait, thousands die. Abolish the FDA. That's your position.
Yes, they've justified having the right to ban drugs from thalidomide from many, many years ago when this bad drug got on the market and hurt people. And that's happened sometimes. But when they, and by the way, this drug now is available. They did speed the process at least. But when they say this new drug will save 10,000 lives a year, and it takes 10 years to get it approved, that means they killed 10,000 people last year and the year before. But they don't count in the media reporting or in government thinking.
Yeah, this has been going on for generations. I mean, multiple generations, where people have gone to Europe or other countries where their equivalent of the FDA is much more expeditious in getting these drugs to the pipeline. So if you have the means, then you go to another country and you get the drug that you know that you need that's going to save your life. If you don't have the means and you're America, you die.
And it's not like if you abolish the FDA, everybody's going to take bad drugs and die. It's new things will appear. Consumer reports, underwriters' laboratories. Some people will get suckered and will die, and we'll learn from that. And in the long run, more people will live.
So you are in the school of thought of trust 99% of people to make the decisions for themselves. It goes back to that same thing.
It's our body.
Yeah.
And if I'm dying, shouldn't I get to try some new drug?
As opposed to waiting for a broken bureaucracy to deliver a decade later.
Current system doesn't trust you to make the right decision for yourself.
Right, in many areas.
Yeah, in many areas. Okay, last one here we'll do. China's Xi threatens catastrophic consequences if China is confronted. They just seem like the friendliest people out there. This is American Military News. During a speech before the virtual-only Davos World Economic Forum, Xi said that the world needs to move away from what he called the Cold World mentality. Xi also appeared to criticize Western nations, which have been adopting economic policies and forming alliances around countering China. For example, the U.S. has adopted the Uyghur Forced Labor Act to bar imports from China's Xinjiang region, which are suspected to being produced through the forced labor of Uyghur population. The U.S. has also stated that international efforts like the Clean Network, which seeks to build network infrastructure using only trusted technology companies while excluding companies like China's Huawei. In September, the U.S., Australia, and UK also formed a new defense and technology sharing agreement aimed at bolstering Australia's military capabilities in the Indo-Pacific region. Danielle, thoughts?
Look, he's got until November, and he's going to do everything he can before the 20th People's Congress to bolster support for himself, not externally, but internally. And I think we need to understand the difference between the two, because in 2015, 2016, there was a global industrial recession. The manufacturing sector worldwide got slammed. China pumped a ton of money into the global economy. Mm-hmm. Xi Jinping's looking for an unprecedented third term, which he hopes to become a dictatorship when the 20th People's Congress convenes in November. Now, he was born, the actual date of the Congress is a very closely held secret. It's announced very close to the date of it opening. He was born in the year of the snake. People born in the year of the snake, October is a very unlucky month, and the Chinese believe in their lunar calendar deeply. So I say that sometime around November or so, all this tough talk is going to go away. All he wants to make sure is that he retains his dictatorship. So the more he says about the West, and the West being the bad guys, the more popular he is on the mainland, and that's what he cares about.
Does he stand the chance of losing?
There are enemies within, and he has... There are some people who have criticized his attack of the billionaires and having gone too far in destroying wealth in China. And there are indeed in his own party those who don't want to see this third on. This is like FDR.
Yeah.
This is an FDR moment for China. There's never been a third term. So he's trying to exert himself within the party, and by breaking through barriers that have never been broken through in the Communist Party.
John, do you have an opinion on this?
I will not bloviate about what I haven't researched, so no.
Okay, I like that word, bloviate. Go ahead.
I just want to follow up to Danielle. You're saying are they limited to 2 terms in China? Here it is in the United States, or is this
it is
an
typically
anomaly?
it is typically 2 terms. This is the 20th Congress, but yes, and they come together every 6 years. But this will effectively ensure the strong leader who he has become remains in this position.
And how long are
and
the
he's
terms?
been brutal with his enemies.
How long
6
are the
years.
terms? So there's 6 and not 4 years in the United States. So he's been in power, you're saying 12 years? And he's looking for another 6. So it'll be 18
and,
years.
And the Chinese economy is at a 30-year low growth rate. 30-year low.
And that's because of COVID or why?
It's because the country itself has reached its limits in terms of its capacity to be the marginal consumer of 50% of commodities on the planet. It's got a demographic problem. We talked about that earlier. And the growth is simply slowing. So any and all stimulus that's going to be put into the economy this year is going straight to the people. Ray Dalio's been talking his book lately. And he's been saying, it's common prosperity. That's what they call it, this common prosperity push, the campaign. It's a great thing for the people of China. Well, just wait and see what happens after he succeeds, if he succeeds in November. And then all the stimulus goes poof.
Look, layman terms over here, I don't think there's any chance that he does not succeed. He's a complete strong man, and look at where China's at right now. You seem to be skeptical of him actually winning, quote-unquote, re-election. Again,
there are people underneath him. You have to, it is traditional right now in China for you to name your successor. That is, even if he takes the unprecedented 3rd term, he didn't name his successor last time around, meaning I plan on being here.
Yeah, I don't think
Get
he's
used to
going
me.
anywhere.
And that's what, critically, that's what he and Putin have in common, is that they're going to be around with their countries and with a common enemy of the United States.
Who's around longer, Putin or Xi, in power? Who's around longer?
Putin's not going anywhere.
It doesn't seem like Xi is either, no.
Well, we'll see come November.
Pat, do you have any feelings on whether Xi makes it this 3rd term or not?
I mean, the way it's looking like what he's doing, but she's talking about a system. So 6-2, it hasn't happened. I don't know. This guy seems like he is a true believer in what he believes in, and he is one that imposes himself amongst
Brutally.
his people, and people are scared of this guy extremely. By the way, the other day, you saw how Enes Kanter came out and called out China again on what they said about Uyghurs and all this other stuff. Then
Shamat had
not only what
strong comments
Shamat
about the
had to
Uyghurs.
say, not what Shamat had to say, because Enes was disappointed with what Shamat had to say on the podcast. But Yao Ming came out and said, I don't know who this Enes Kanter freedom person is, but guess what? If you want to come to China, we'd love to show you this country.
Stop it.
And show you there it is. He says, but if he wants to see the real China, come on down. By the way, here's what I'll say. If Enes decides to go to China, I would join him on that trip to go to China.
You and Enes Kanter.
I would join him. I would
And
join
his freedom.
Because to validate a point. Let's go see how great of a place that
here's
is.
what I can guarantee.
Yeah.
There is a higher likelihood that Enes Kanter freedom goes to China than he goes to Turkey.
You're so funny. You're so funny. Okay, maybe you know what we'll do? Here's an idea. Because I know this guy that likes to travel. Maybe we'll go check out the volleyball team in China with John Stossel. and we'll do some investigative journalism together. What do you think about that? Are you open to it?
No.
Okay, I figured.
Have you ever been to China?
No.
No
Been to
plans
Hong
on
Kong.
going. You have.
Does that count?
Somewhat.
Yeah,
it's like
50-50.
a cousin. Yeah, I think
it's like a half brother, like Bill Clinton's half brother.
Well, listen, people love today's podcast. Lots of positive commentary for John and Danielle. And Adam, I think this was one of your best podcasts ever. I think you crushed it today. I'm being serious with it. I think you crushed it today. We're doing it again next week on, let me see, what do we have? You got to tell me.
Tuesday, not Thursday.
Tuesday we got
with,
who?
Christina Pusha.
Oh, Christina Pusha. Upshaw or Pusha?
Pusha.
Pusha is
DeSantis'
press secretary.
Press secretary of DeSantis will be here Tuesday, folks. Do not miss it. It's going to be an interesting conversation, especially if you live in Florida or if you'd like to see DeSantis become the president of Florida. That'll be Tuesday podcast. Take care.
Dun,
John,
dun.
Danielle, thanks for coming out. Have a
Thank
great
you.
weekend, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye.